Hello and welcome, little chatfish, to another Bunchcast. Today we're going to be talking about indie games and talking about early access and basically like the process of early access and indie development, if that makes sense. Because with the release of Forever Winter, we've seen a lot of interesting things. We've also seen a lot of people come to sort of different assumptions as time has gone on, especially when it comes to indies. And one thing I think that I want to really dive into right away is the assumption that an indie game is a finished game. This is something that I never really have been thinking too much, but when it comes to early access games, as time has gone on, we've started to see more and more people start to look at indie games as if they're slightly buggy early preview copies, when in reality that an indie game entering early access is often a early work in progress game, because there have been many indies and early access games throughout the history of Steam and just the internet in general that have taken many years. One such one that has taken incredibly long is Project Zomboid, which has been in development for well over a decade and is showing no signs of being anywhere near its completion. But that is not a bad thing. That in fact is a good thing. And the good thing is, from that game being in literally what I would call forever development, is that it's only gotten better as time has gone on. Project Zomboid has more stuff, more things, more features, more systems than it ever would have otherwise gotten. And its future, with patch 42, is looking even brighter. Now, yeah, that means the game is going to be worked on forever. But in a way, a game that's constantly being developed and pushed further is honestly just another game to experience. And I don't think that we should look at early access as such a negative light of it's not done yet. I don't get to play it right away. Rather, look at the benefits of it too. Because one thing I've noticed with Forever Winter is there's been a lot of people who've been trying to cover it and who've been ragging on it pretty hard and pretty harsh. When it comes to Forever Winter, because it does have problems, right? It has some performance issues, it has some loading issues, it's got some geometry issues with the maps, and they've talked about that, and they need to work on that. But the reality is that it's starting to, even though it's got its issues, it's a pretty strong game through and through, fundamentally, and just overall designs and ideas and its visionary directive, whether it's the art style or the gameplay. Just being a little scavenger romping around a massive war-torn battlefield with NPCs going ham on each other while you're just this little dude who's just trying to loot as much stuff as he can and get out of dodge sounds like it'd get really repetitive really quickly. But with the quest systems and the faction reputation systems and the day and night operation things where you can be hunted by corpse mommies and stuff, really adds an extra layer that you really wouldn't expect, not to mention the intricate details and resource management when it comes to your equipment, add-ons, and munitions and stuff. It's just something I found really, really, really interesting. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this subject today, about indies and their process, and the reason why it's important to be patient with them is because, yeah, they're going to take years. They don't have a lot of resources, and it's just, they don't have massive budgets. Some of them just work out of pocket, some of them don't have, the big teams, and they're not a AAA studio. And I think that we should be patient with games like this. If they're trying and they're putting forth the effort, and you can see the effort being put in there, the passion being put in there, then I think we should be patient. Because if a studio shows that they're willing to endure, right? Many of you may not remember, but Project Zomboid, for a while, took a massive nosedive. And that was because people were getting very upset about the development speed of it. It wasn't going very fast. It's like, oh, they removed things that we wanted in there. But the developers were like, but we removed it because we're going to try to improve it and make it so that it actually works together. And the people that were patient were rewarded. It did get there, and it is getting there, and it is a long journey. Project Zomboid will not be done in 2024. It will not be done by 2030, if I had to guess, honestly. It's honestly going to be maybe in development for a long time. But is that really a bad thing? Is Project Zomboid being in early access bad? And I'd say no. In fact, I fully recommend the game as is. There's no harm in waiting, but I see no point in waiting either because there's so much to do and play and experience as is. Even with Forever Winter, I was able to play the game quite a bit, and after about 34 hours, I've gotten the base maxed out. And I could have probably done it a little faster if I knew what I was doing, but you learn, right? But 34 hours worth of content for a game that's basically $27. And that's with just one class and character I've been grinding and leveling up. And that's been the old man. But there's like 5 or 6 other characters to play that I've yet to experiment with. There's and weapon types and classes I've not even tried in this game yet. And there's just
also
a
some
lot.
characters in development too.
Yep, there's even like routes and areas of the map I keep finding that are new that I've never been to. So there's a lot of replayability with learning new routes, new areas on the map, new enemies, or not new enemies. I think we've encountered all the enemies, but there's a lot to experience in this game still after 34 hours. A lot. And despite the fact that there is that much and it's only $27, I got more playtime out of this $27 game than I have ever gotten out of most $70 or $60 AAA experiences for a fraction of the cost. Not only that, I am intending fully to go back to this game. Again, I'm going to stream it more. There's a lot more I want to do, and it's got a massive roadmap, and there's a lot to look forward to. That's the thing, right? Being early access has its benefits. It also has its downsides, right? You mean you have to experience bugs, but you know what you're getting into when you see this big giant blue marker here. It's an early access game. It's not quite ready, and it's not quite done, and you also know the risks. So there are some early access games like Necropolis was one that really was never really finished. Not just Necropolis, but also Necromancer or whatever it was called, the one with Total Biscuit's involvement slightly with like or references to Total Biscuit in it, and that one had a massive falling out. I have that one. I think it was called Necromancer. I don't remember 100%.
Let me see.
The norm for the early access games is for them not to be finished or abandoned, is what it seems to be.
But the ones that do make it, right? That's the thing. You know what you're getting into. And it's just really you got to make the call. Do you think the studio has the potential to actually pull off the product? Do you think they'll do it? Do you think they can do it, right? And I think if you look in a case-by-case basis and you look at the people working on these projects and their reputation, you can pretty easily tell if there's somebody committed, right? You can look at like, you know, the Factorio devs or Factorio dev, and I think it's now devs, I don't remember. But either way, his project, and you can be like, yeah, no, he's gonna finish it. He's committed, and he's dedicated himself to working on this game. And while he may only make like one game, and this is now, you know, been almost a decade project for him, more than I think, since
it's been a while.
Either way, like his first expansion is coming out, and the thing about his expansion is it's basically double the base game's content, if not more, and that's pretty impressive. Yeah, sure, he'll only make one game, but though his one game is infinitely better than 90% of the shovelware trash out on the market, and that's the big thing. Honestly, less games, longer development cycles equals better products in the long run, because it's all about time investment, right? And if you invest more time into these projects, they get better and better over time. Factorio has multiple devs? Yeah, I would assume so now, especially with the scope and scale. Because the Space Age stuff has multiple planets now. That look pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. That guy Pogface at me. Nice. But I wanted to know what your guys' thoughts are. And our general topic today, Chatfish, is just going to be indie games in general. We're just going to be talking about indie games for the most part. These might not always have been indie games, but they are now. And the one thing I will say is that when it comes to this indie game in particular, or what do you call it, Forever Winter, it's pretty fun. If you've got free spending money and you're willing to invest it, I recommend you try it. And if you're not so sure, wishlist it and keep it on your tab of things to monitor, because it is pretty fun. We've had a lot of fun with this together, I think, guys, and I think we'll have a lot more fun with this game going forward. But what are your
it is
thoughts?
a fun game. Personally, I think it's actually even more fun solo.
I think it's in currently it's in a very rough place as far as overall, like, just little problems with the game, but I can very much see it improving greatly in the future.
There's definitely a lot of passion behind it. At least it feels that way.
I think so. I definitely have that opinion. It seems like they have a vision and a focus on what they want to do. It's just about polishing that experience and refining it.
Mm-hmm.
Chatfish asks, have
When
we
it
heard?
comes to...
Oh, go ahead.
Oh. No.
No, go ahead.
What did you say?
I'll read his
Okay.
thing next.
All right. Well, when it comes to early access games, and really games in general, and like them being finished, there's also a big distinction between games that are meant to be finished and games that aren't, because not all games are meant to be finished. Some games are meant to be maintained and updated all the time, especially multiplayer games. But you also have games like, for example, Path of Exile, that has been in development for like 11 years now or something, and it's still not finished. And even now, when they're making Path of Exile 2, they are still going to keep producing things for Path of Exile 1 as well, because it's just not meant to be finished. So there's a big difference between games that are meant to be a constant thing and games that are, like Baldur's Gate 3, for example, being in early access, and when that finally comes out, that's not meant to be in constant development after the fact, right? Except for like bug fixes and stuff, because that's just a story game that's meant to be finished at some point. So I think that's an important distinction to make as well.
It's true.
More gold, Your Majesty.
Have you guys seen the game called Wayward Realms? I will quickly take a look
Isn't
at it.
that the one that's being made by the former Bethesda devs?
Like Superformer. If I remember
Yeah,
right,
it's
this
like-
is more like
This is Daggerfall era.
Daggerfall-esque. I have heard about it, and I'm surprised I did not add it to my wish list, because I've been monitoring news on
I
this
saw
game.
that it existed, but I didn't really see any progress on it last time I checked.
Yep.
Oh, this is the first time I've heard of it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, really? Okay, so Wayward Realms is basically made under the direction of Ted Peterson and Julian Lefay. And I think I recognize Ted Peterson's name here. And they are worked on Elder Scrolls Daggerfall. And it was there, if I remember right, if these are the people I'm remembering correctly from the interviews, and bear in mind I'm super rusty, so correct me if I'm wrong. These were the guys that were arguing against what Todd's direction was and wanted it to be more of a simulated sandbox RPG than a focused experience. Todd Howard was very much of the opinion of focused experience direction, smaller, tighter, but more focused, and they wanted more grandiose, broad, open simulations than focused experience. And then they eventually left over, I think, creative disputes, if I remember right. And that led them eventually to make or start the project for the Wayward Realms, which is basically their vision of what they wanted the Elder Scrolls series to go towards, but under their own IP.
Right.
So
Yes, it
more
was
more like Daggerfall-esque, if you're familiar with that, yeah.
It was Ted Peterson and Julian Lefay, yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
that was
I mean,
the
that
people?
could be interesting.
Okay, good.
And they're developing a bit in Unreal Engine 5, which is unfortunate.
I'm not a
That
big
is
fan of the Unreal
unfortunate.
Engine, but if the game is good, who cares? It's just gonna have some graphical bugs. I can get over it.
There was a dono.
That's
Yes,
true.
Terratine donates 50 North Koreans. One of the games that is not going to be finished, I think, is Dwarf Fortress.
Yeah,
Dwarf Fortress to me feels like a game that the developers are going to develop until they die.
Yeah.
Because they just
Dwarf
want to keep
Fortress
adding to it.
It is one of those games, for sure.
a life project, a magnum opus, basically. It's their life work, and I can respect that. It honestly feels like Project Zomboid is like that too. It's Indie Stone's magnum opus game, right? They're dedicated to the cause to the bitter end, you know. And honestly, as time goes on, I kind of like that, because it's like every time I can go back to Project Zomboid or these games,
More
and
gold,
there's
Your
something
Majesty.
new there. There's something new and exciting, and the game refreshes itself, you know? And as somebody who very much loves a lot of old games like Red Alert 2, big passion of mine, or like Advanced Wars or older series games, those games are unfortunately dead games, meaning that yeah, they're fun and they got lots of stuff to do in them, but the mystery, how do I put it? Bubbles and I talked about this on the Borderlands stream only briefly because we were mucking around too much, but it's sort of like the first time experience. You'll never be able to experience a game again, and there's certain things like he talked about how he wished he could go back in time and unsee the Lord of the Rings movies and then re-get that experience again about seeing them for the first time. Because yeah, you can go and watch those movies again and they're still good. They're timeless in that regard. But the wonder and awe of seeing them for the first time is no longer something you can get again. There are certain games like that, Nier Automata for me, or the Nier Gestalt game. There was something special about it the first time that was just truly, really cool, and the twists and turns that were surprising, but you'll never get that again. And so a lot of those games like Red Alert 2 or older titles, right? They'll never get new twists or Halo or whatever. They're always going to kind of be in the situation where they were. And that doesn't mean that it's bad, but there's nothing really shiny and new to come back to unless it's like the modding scene, right? And what's cool about these longer development cycle games, because originally I was pretty negative towards these games. Star Citizen was one that always came to mind when I thought of negative view sets about like massive development cycles, right? But as time has gone on, I've sort of warmed to the idea because these games over time and through investment have become bigger than they ever otherwise could have if they were under a AAA studio. That goblin is quite horrifying to look at.
Little goblin.
He's got his nose is his fucking face half the time.
He's just a little guy.
He's a little guy. Okay, that's a
little goblin guy.
That shocked me a little. That shocked me a little. But either way, yeah. Also, Yazuke says, been playing a lot of Outpost Infinity Siege. Surprisingly a good game despite its mixed rating. I'm considered pleasantly surprised by it. Well, yeah, that's something, right? Just because a game was mixed, right, doesn't mean it can't have aspects or things you like about it, just because the general consensus is negative. I mean, there are some games that are just, that were sold on a lot of lies and stuff like that, but you can still enjoy those games, even if they did that, right? I don't know if that's related to that game at all, by the way. I'm just
And there are
referencing,
some
like,
games that have,
oh, go ahead.
there are some games that have a mixed rating, not because of the game, but because of stuff outside the game as well.
That's true.
I was actually looking at it. It just seems like the game's in a bit of a rough state at the moment, and that's it. Like every other like negative comment I saw on the game itself was saying there's some rough things about it. That's it.
Okay. I mean, it being rough, is it early access?
No.
Okay. I mean, it is.
They were
Hold
complaining
your
that it felt like they were
majesty.
playing an early access game, though.
Yeah, it can feel like that with someone's first project. And that's the thing, right? Games that get time to be polished and get that time to shine is a very important thing. Thank you for your donation. Jano donates 25 Polish bucks and says, if only DF allowed you to choose an item to be decorated with gems when placing an order and some such. Hurts me, Decor Autism, Sock Fund, Tally Lives, MM7. Thank you for your generous donation, little Janofish. DF is an abbreviation for what game?
Dwarf
Fortress.
Or Fortress.
Okay, because I'm like, Daggerfall is the thing that came to my mind, and I really don't see that connecting.
I don't think there's any crafting in Daggerfall.
That's what I meant, like, it's not connecting in my head.
There is.
Okay.
It's more like item enchantment crafting,
Uh,
but it is there.
Okay. But yeah, so when it comes to games often get built up. Now, a big game that I'm not super... Wait, where'd it go? Oh, I accidentally opened it up in here, so it just went over it. All right, so a big game that I actually only have a little bit of experience with. I only have 13.6 hours, and last time I played this was like 2014 to 13. So my understanding of Path of Exile is very different than Robin's, because Robin, you have how many hours in this game?
Probably like 2,000.
Jesus Christ. Jesus. Your understanding of this game is a lot bigger than mine, and I never fully beat it, even when it was out. But I imagine, like, how far has it come now that, like, in its current state? What it was like a decade
Too far.
ago? Too far? Or like
Yes,
how?
unironically too far. Because the thing is, a game like Path of Exile, first and foremost, the game is so old now that its base is extremely archaic, right? It's really just Diablo 2 plus, because that's what they wanted to make. They really loved Diablo 2, so they made Diablo 2 plus, you know? And they did that really well. But as time goes on, there's only so much you can do with a game that's simple, right? Because you don't have a dodge roll. The gameplay is super basic. You're really just going around killing things with like one button. And because of this, whenever they want to add new mechanics and layers to it, it introduces power creep. So now the game is at the point where like you just become like insane, literal god. You're just blinking across the entire screen, you know, can't see what's going on. You're just... like that's what it's like, and that's why they're making a second game, because it's come too far and they have to pull it back and do what they want to do, because they can't do that with the first game anymore.
Okay, so they're sort of like plateaued with this.
More or less, yeah.
I mean, it's not to say you couldn't play this now, because from the very beginning, if you haven't played it now, because there's a lot of content in it.
I mean, it depends on why you want to play it. Like, if you just want to play it for the story, it works just fine, just like it always has. But to the majority of Path of Exile players, you know, that's not why they play it. They play it because they like making like roleplay characters, or literally just min-maxed builds so that they can go and kill whatever new bosses are in the end game now, right?
Yeah, just making the god machine.
Pretty much. So for the story, like, it's fine, no problems really. But yeah.
And so that's why they're going to try to reset. Yep. Actually, what's funny is, well, Rob and I had talked about this before, but one of the inspirations from wanting me to make games a long time ago was a game called Advance Wars for the Game Boy. And they actually ran into a similar problem with plateauing with Dual Strike, where they basically reached a point in which there was nowhere to really take the game now and forward. And so, like, okay, well, what do? We reset. And the issue with resetting is you got to be careful, right? Because you got to not forget what made your game great or what attracted you in the first place. Because I think the problem with Days of Ruin was that it was like dry and drab compared to vibrant and colorful. So it was like a visually very different game than the originals, which are much more juvenile, especially in their overall interpretation. Because it felt like the sequel was more about like appealing to younger teens rather than, you know, kids.
They were very lighthearted compared to Days of Ruin.
I did enjoy Days of Ruin, though.
I know you did. You're allowed to be wrong. This once.
But the other ones are also very good.
Yep. I always preferred the more colorful take on it. Now, granted, the story was never very good, but the gameplay loop was the fun part. The simple rock, paper, scissors mechanics was always fun as a kid, because you're like, oh, wow, this is a really cool and complex strategy game, right? It's like chess, but there's a lot more going on. You know, it's a little bit more advanced, even though chess is in itself a mathematical science. And when you get to the later fucking aspects of it, but it's really fascinating when you sort of see certain games and how they evolve and progress. And that's something that a lot of these games, these early access games here that we have up here that we're talking about today, have. That's something that Forever Winter has too. Where is its plateau? What is going to be the end point of this game, right? Because we can kind of see that with Factorio. Factorio in its current state, its end point is rather simple. It's about getting the spaceship to basically launch into space, right? And so, okay, that's the end point. Now the expansion is going to take that end point and then push the game forward. So now it's about going to different planets and getting resources in an interplanetary, you know, like factory sim, where you're basically building factories into planets and then trading resources from each of those factories on a sort of interstellar level, you know, which is like expanding the scope and scale. But eventually you have to ask yourself, at some point, will that plateau as well? Like, is it going to be a multi-solar thing? Is they just going to make it another layer on top of that? Or is that going to be like it? Or are they going to go a different direction, right? Because in the case of Path of Exile, you can progress with bosses and new gear and new damage and more powerful spells, right? But eventually you're going to become a god if you keep going down that route. With Project Zomboid, you have a little bit of different expansion paths. Now, it's not really about adding new weapons because, okay, well, it's the 1990s. They already have guns and state-of-the-art military equipment you can use in this game. That can't advance any further. There's nothing that's going to improve about that. What they've actually done is started expanding the horizons of the scope in terms of not going forward in terms of like weapons and powers, but instead, okay, now we're going to add a blacksmithing thing. Now you know how to blacksmith and make iron tools and things of that nature and armor and like maces and expand that. And then on the other side, we're going to add advanced plumbing and new ways to deal with plumbing and water and stuff like that. And then we're going to also add another system for animal husbandry and animals and migration patterns and stuff like that, and with the monthly cycles and stuff like that. And so you're starting to add a lot more scope there, because some games you can advance forward in one direction like that if it's a simple idea, and that's kind of the only way to naturally go. Other games can sort of blossom out into more fields and subjects, right? Because one thing they definitely need to do with Project Zomboid is they need to add electricity stuff, wiring and stuff like that, because currently electrician doesn't really do anything besides like turning on a generator, or is it like jump starting a car? Like that's it, and it's just like
I think
check.
it's actually just generators.
It's just generators,
Because like thieves are able to jumpstart cars.
and
That's all you need.
and they need to add things like, making coal-based steam power so they can actually use like, steam turbines, because what happens when the fuel runs out? They need to expand on the cars. Like, okay, we need water steam powered cars that are able to sort of go forward, or some sort of vehicles, because eventually the fuel will run out. And so they need to start broadening the horizons, right, about where these games go. And that's something that's interesting with, I think, all of these games. Like Synthetic. I played Synthetic for only 3.2 hours. It's a game I was like telling myself, I'll come back to you game. And I just, for whatever reason, never came back to. Because I was like, this is neat. I'll come back to this. And I never did. But for those of you who did, because I know, Squealy, you did. You beat this.
Oh, well, actually, the game's a little bit...
Well,
I never got good enough at the game to beat it.
Well, I know,
I
but
never beat it either.
it has like an end state. Like there's a final boss you can beat.
There is a final boss.
Yeah.
The game's just fucking balls hard.
I've gotten to the end boss a number of times, and the closest I've gotten is maybe like within a sliver of the boss's health, but I never bothered to actually finish it.
Mm-hmm. Also, Terratine is gifted 50. Cannot count, apparently. 50 North Korean kroners. Wait, that's not... Whatever. An indie game I like that is made slow and by 4 people is Star Sector. Star Sector is a game I'll talk about in just a minute, because that's another can of worms. So we'll put a pin in that for just a moment. Let's finish the Synthetic game, but we'll move on to Star Sector. Star Sector I didn't even put up here. It's not even on Steam, by the way. It's really cool. We'll talk about it.
Old.
Star Sector is it that old? It's been in development for a long time. I know
2010 or so.
I know the developer for Star Sector
2011
was like,
initial release date.
he doesn't want to put it on Steam until it's like ready. And when I'm looking at Star Sector, I'm like, that's never gonna happen. I really wish he would, because I actually own 3 copies of Star Sector because I kept losing the key. Losing the key.
Jesus Christ.
So he's milked Gibbs of his money. Now, fortunately, I saved the 3rd key, so I will be able to download it again if I need to. But yeah, when it comes to... Oh God, see, now we started on Star Sector. Okay, so to explain what Star Sector is, Chatfish, I'm going to real quickly cover my screen and pull it up, because it's not on Steam. And if you guys are curious and you do want to play it, I need to pull it up for you.
Pull the website.
I know.
Mountain
Doing a
blade in
quick-
space.
Doing a little bit of poking around on it.
It
Seems
is-
the reason it's not early access is because of the slow update progress and release date issues.
He is super duper indie, so we'll just pull up his trailer in the background here so you can see it. But basically, it is a isometric, top-down, 2D Mountain Blade in space, unironically. And I honestly like this more than Mountain Blade, a lot more.
It is better than Mountain Blade, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
This is, I know that's a brave that you said that, but now that you've said it, I'm gonna have to commit to. This is this is superior to Mountain Blade in every way. If you like Mountain Blade, I'm sorry. Mountain Blade can't hold a candle to Star Sector. Star Sector has better gameplay, better strategy, better tactics. You control fleet battles and stuff like that. And it's just Mountain Blade. You start off as a couple of ships. You can trade, you can buy, you can purchase and conquer and explore and dominate and exterminate. You can do all of those things. You can literally create your own Star Empire and stuff like that. There's mods that turn it into Star Wars, which are super cool. I don't know if they're still working anymore, but the fucking Star Destroyer mods or the Star Wars mod was so fucking cool. I literally played as my made-up personal Thrawn and took over like several planets. Now I'm not that good at that game, so it's one of those things that took me time, but it's a really cool game, and it's been in development for a very long time. And if you like games like Mountain Blade, and you were wishing for something a little bit more polished or refined in terms of gameplay, Star Sector is the game that is screaming for you to buy it. It has been sitting here forever, and it is incredibly slow development. That's one thing I'll warn you. It's not a quick game, but it is a good game. I really enjoyed this game quite a bit, and the space combat feels super satisfying when you like tear through ships and stuff.
Then you
Aristocratic
get to the boss
Cthulhu
ships that are nasty.
says, you can ask them for the key by supplying your email and payment method you used, Kib, right?
I could, but I didn't want to waste their precious time. They should be spending what little precious time they have instead of answering Kib's dumbass emails because he lost his key again, and keep developing their game. Because I would much rather them be focused on updating this game. Because the development cycle for this game is slow. And it's really good, though. I do wish that you could go onto planets, but you can't. And they shouldn't do
It's
that.
also
You can
Quite
build on
cheap.
planets.
Okay.
it's
You
only
have
like
a-
$20.
Yeah, it's only,
factory on a planet.
that's the thing. It's only $20. So whenever I lost the keys, it was like, $20 is $20.
I also heard, haven't they ended up incorporating some of the really popular mods just into base game?
I think they officially supported them, and basically to the point that they got inducted. I don't remember because I'm not super following this game. Like, I only check up on this game like every couple of years or so, and then play it. I'm like, wow, this game's so much better than it was last time. And then I tell myself like, oh, I'm gonna let this cook a little bit longer. And I've been doing that for about a decade. But each
Not
time it's
wrong.
got more stuff in it than the last time.
Technically, it's been more than a decade.
It's also got a really cool like 2D art style that I really like. At least the ship designs are neat.
A lot of them are asymmetrical, a little wonky looking. Some of them are very sleek, got variety.
But yeah, Star Sector is fucking awesome. It's really fun. It's if you're looking for a Mountain Blade game, but you wish it was Mountain Blade and you weren't satisfied with Mountain Blade's
More
sort of
gold, Your
gameplay, and you
Majesty.
thought it was a bit basic, Star Sector is what you want. Star Sector is the game that is itching for you to acquire it. Not to mention, it just feels better. Like, the combat feels good. I can't really quite describe it other than it feels like when you're tearing through a big ship and it crunches as it breaks apart, versus Mountain Blade's sort of janky mob combat when there's like a tons of dudes, or just like a blob of dudes and you're just wailing on each other and you're just side strafing. Because I'm sorry, but Mountain Blade, that's that's what happens. You just I side strafe and side swipe, and that kills everybody. And it's not only that good, but the only place it doesn't work is in PvP. And even then, that works on like new players because they don't know how to deal with that. Like, he goes left and he swipes right. I don't understand.
Mountain Blade has never had good melee combat.
It's directional based, and so it's very simple.
It's also very clunky.
Yes, especially when it comes to the net coding. God help me. But
I
yeah,
think the only game with directional combat that was actually kind of decent was For Honor, but For Honor was also a purely PvP game.
For Honor,
Honor also has a lot of major issues.
Yeah.
be careful. The For Honor players are super dedicated.
Oh, I loved For Honor.
They cling to it like it's their only game
Because they
it
wanted
is
it
their
to
only game.
be. They wanted it.
I played it
But
since
it
the
just
very
doesn't-
first closed test. It was actually better in the closed tests.
I can believe that. But yeah, have you heard about Vintage Story? Asked Tarantine. I like it because you can really detail your buildings. Vintage Story. What's that?
It's
Mod?
basically Minecraft 2.
Vintage Minecraft
I
2.
don't.
Steam?
It's Minecraft, but with really extreme, like hardcore survival aspect to it.
It's on
Is
Steam.
on Steam?
No.
No, it's not on Steam.
Let's Google it.
Vintage.
It actually has a pretty big player base online.
Oh.
There are a lot of servers for it.
I know what you mean by Minecraft.
I played it a little bit and I got like demolished constantly.
Demolished.
And then I entered the Rust dimension, and then the Rust demons ate me and killed me. And I didn't really get. I didn't really get much further than
Game
that.
sounds pretty cool when you
You know-
describe it like that.
You know what's unfortunate? It kind of reminds me of a pre-texture, pre-mob 7 Days to Die because of all the blocks.
Oh my god.
So better 7 Days to Die.
Honestly, this sounds actually kind of interesting. I'm not gonna lie. A more focused experience Minecraft with an idea behind it.
Yeah, it's kind of cute as well. It has some stuff to it that are a little bit more involved. Not necessarily like functionally, but like when you're crafting weapons, if you're gonna craft a flint axe, you have to nap the stone. So you like place it on the ground, and then there's a shape, and then you have to like click the little squares to destroy the rocks and like make a blade shape, like little small stuff like that.
Oh, like a little bit more immersive roleplay style.
Yeah, exactly.
Less game.
But I haven't gotten that far in it, so I can't really say much more than that. But as an alternative to Minecraft, I think it's already better because like Minecraft is a stagnant game.
Minecraft is stagnant. Microsoft has no idea what to do with it. It's plateaued.
All they've done is made it worse by like restricting servers and shit like that.
Not only that,
and this
but
game doesn't have that at all.
adding items
Like,
or new things that either replace old things or add nothing of
What
value.
told your
I
majesty?
kind of feel like Microsoft should just leave Minecraft alone and just run the servers, and that's all they should do with it.
Nah, but they need to justify development costs.
Mojang has.
The development cost will purely be
development?
fixing bugs.
Yeah, dude, they barely develop the game. Like they do. I will say they do add stuff occasionally, but like the stuff they add is so fucking.
Like,
Like,
vote
minimal.
Pat, which
We
mob
added-
we add.
We added bees. It's like, oh my
Yeah,
god.
we added a single mob
bees.
after 6 months of development.
You mean something that the modders basically already did?
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yep.
you want to know the truth? Whenever they add something, they actually remove more things from the game than they add, because every time they patch the game, even if it's just something minor, every single mod crashes and burns.
Yep. So all that
So-
content is gone.
Every time they add like a little green bee to the game and nothing else, every single mod breaks.
It's now
and not
uncompatible.
everybody fixed their mods.
It's only
so
$21. I might buy this unironically. This actually looks pretty cool. Might try
But will
this.
you accept their cookies?
No.
never.
No, I reject your cookies. Like, no.
Hold on, wait, it's-
Give to
Oh,
the
it's on
cookies.
it's on the Humble store and itch.io.
I don't like itch.io. I may have gotten some good indies. Running with Rifles was one. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Did they announce a second Running with Rifles? Let's Google this.
I
While
think
you're
they
looking
did.
that up, I'm going to read Terra Tune's donation.
Okay.
There's also classes if you want that, and you have to gather food for winter, and food goes bad over time, which is what they were showing in the trailer about the putting them in the cellar. The
Hmm.
food.
What I will say about Vintage Story though is it is really, really rough in the beginning because like they start you out in a fucking jungle. You can't see like 10 feet ahead of you because there's so much vegetation. And while you're like sneaking around trying to figure out how to craft like a single axe or something, because it's not straightforward how to do things. It's a little over convoluted where you have to like literally
Like
go
look
and
it up.
read health
Yeah.
files and shit, how to make a fire. And while you're doing that, there's just like a random bear coming out from the forest, just killing you constantly. It took a little while to figure out how to progress in it, but that is also part of the fun, I think. Gibbs is running with rifles.
Number 2.
Oh,
teaser
yeah,
trailer.
that's cool. You can actually go inside buildings now, and they're destructible. Running with rifles is basically imagine Star Wars Battlefront or Battlefield, but if it was a top-down little indie game, and pretty moddable. Like there's a Starship Troopers mod, there's a Mass Effect mod, there's a Warhammer 40k mod that's really badly made.
There's War Girl mods.
There's the War
Which is what we
Girl
played
mod.
with.
Yeah, pretty much. Running with rifles is really cool, and it's a little game. I think they might not be indie though. Let's check.
I think they were definitely indie at one point.
They were. I remember when they were on itch.io. No,
No, they're
Asunia is indie. But yeah, it's a cute little indie title. Another one that's actually really fun. They're pretty slow with their development stuff. Like the Eastern Front expansion has been announced for like a bajillion years and is taking them forever. It's honestly better that they actually don't make these little expansions, I think, and focus instead on actually just making the second game. Because the first game is fun, but it's got limitations. Like can't go inside buildings. The buildings aren't destructible. You can make the game remember like a billion bodies and a billion blood stains and stuff like that, to the point where your fucking game will fucking crash because it'll run out of memory.
The final maps, though, are just pain.
It's basically Star Wars Battlefront. What I wish Star Wars Battlefront would have became, in terms of like having these big campaigns where you can get progression and like unlocks and like work together and like order your squad around and you level up and stuff like that. And as you level up, you can command soldiers, and as you command soldiers, they can give them orders and stuff. And it's actually really cool. It's a cool little community game, and it's really cheap. Really good to play with friends and PvE. It's just fun. Running Rifles is a solid game. My God, so many indie
Tier 13
titles.
It's 100 North Koreans. It's random
Gold,
where you
Your
spawn. You don't
Majesty.
spawn in the jungle normally, because then you have to start in a warm area of the map. By the way, did it show you that you can mix different blocks together when you build? I think Tarantine likes the other game.
I think
a lot.
Tarantine wants to start a vintage story fund.
Vintage Story Fund win Chatfish. I don't know. Would this work as a community game? I feel like I'd just be ganked. Or it'd be murdered by Chatfish.
Probably not
Yeah.
starting off the first time playing.
Not just
I don't know.
hardcore. Vintage Story offers multiple playstyles and a huge amount of customization. When you create a new game world, you have the power to choose creative experience or a peaceful world, balanced survival, hardcore wilderness survival, or quite literally anything in between. Honestly, I would choose hardcore if we did as a community, because then we could have like dedicated professions. And I've always liked the idea of like a village simulator where I get to boss people around and not do anything, and they make me things. Yeah.
So you'd be the first person we vote to kick out of the community.
This isn't
Yes.
a fucking democracy. This isn't
Kids
no
get sent
fucking-
on into
You're
the
right,
fucking mountains with
You're
nothing
right,
but
Kib.
cloth armor.
This is
the
why I
commune.
I host the server, so that way I'm God.
Gibbs wants to be the king, and then eventually someone in chat is gonna decide that they will usurp the king.
Chat, if we crowdfund, we can host our own server. It's like, wait a minute.
Add it to the vintage story fund, says
Tarantine is sold on it. Nice. The Great Dome joins us in chat and says, my problem with a lot of games that try to copy Minecraft, you have to ask yourself the question, would I play this, I'm going to correct that word, as a kid? Well, that's the other thing, right? When I ask myself games like Minecraft, like there's another one called Stallcraft, which is basically Stalker, but Stark.
It's a stalker in Minecraft art style.
Yep, pretty much. And I ask myself, like, okay, for me, it's more about who's building on top of things, right? So when it comes to Minecraft, Minecraft plateaued. Minecraft became the Lego of video games, unironically. And that's impressive, that the fact that it became so approachable, and it's literally a cultural phenomena in terms of what its impact is. Still to this day, Minecraft is legendary and will probably be for many years to come because of its impact on the gaming industry and its impact on just gaming as a whole. Because it was the first game to simply just become Lego, the video game. And Lego has, which is funny because they just cannot produce anything like that, which is weird. But either way, so the big thing there is like, okay, that's really cool. But my problem with Minecraft, and I think the problem with a lot of people, even as a kid, even when I was little, in 2012 or 13 was it? I think it was 12 and 11, or 2011, I think, because I was like the Minecraft beta, and I was super unimpressed. I remember being annoyed at my friend because he wouldn't stop playing it, and I was like, God, there's nothing to do. It wasn't until they added like the day and night like survival thing outside with like monsters that it started to get good.
More gold, Your Majesty.
Tarantine donates 200 Norwegian kroner, says, buy the game with this money. All right, I will buy it after stream, but otherwise you guys are going to know my banking information. I promise you. But
You can trust chat with that.
I will take care of that later. And even if it's not funded, I'll try it off stream and give it a shot. Maybe we'll stream it in the Discord after today's streams. Just to try. Because this does actually sound really cool. But
Yeah, I'm gonna pick it up too.
the big thing about games like Minecraft for me is that I want more depth. Like when I talked about Advanced Wars when I was a little kid, I love the idea of Advanced Wars or Total War Medieval 2 and stuff like that. But my problem with Medieval 2 is that Medieval 2 doesn't have the actual depth of warfare. It has the cool battles. It's got part of it. It's got the morale. It's got a little bit of aspects. It's got elevation and mechanics like that, and things are starting to touch the basis of the things I like, but it doesn't want to go all in. Creative Assembly has forever kept Total War forever arcadey, and what I want is I want more out of it. I want a little bit more simulation. I don't mind it being a little bit gamey. Gamey is fun, having cool spells, or if you're gonna be magic and right, or have cool general abilities and stuff like that. That's fine. But I want a little bit more from the battles, because what it sort of turns into in Total War is that units make contact, and then that's kind of just the end of the game. That's kind of when warfare's a little bit more complicated, then units make contact, and that's the end. Because sort of what Total War has become is it's become Hollywood the video game. And what I mean by that is Total Warhammer encapsulates this pretty badly. Total Warhammer is two fantasy armies sort of just run at each other. There's a little bit of tactics to it and finesse when it comes to decision making, but the reality
Mostly
is
the
that
mages.
the reality is that it's kind of trivialized. It's not actually that important. Forests don't carry as that much weight. Elevation doesn't carry that much effect. And it's just sort of like a little bit too gamey, and I want a little bit more out of that. That's true. Modability is also an important factor, Dongus. Always. And Samson says, for me, it was Terraria for many years. Yes, for Terraria to me was what I wanted Minecraft to be as a kid. Now, even though Terraria, its gameplay loop gets a bit stale, before you beat the game, because originally it wasn't super long. Like you beat the wall of flesh and the one other boss or whatever, and it was like the end. And then they started adding like this other stage to the game.
The sole problem I have with Terraria is that outside of everything but the combat is pretty good.
The combat's awful.
The combat is what everything builds up to is the problem.
Like the boss battles are truly bad. Like
you have to everything in this game is dedicated to developing your weapons and your armor. And the problem with that is that the weapons are fucking boring and the armor is also fucking boring.
The biggest thing I think I liked about Terraria was building cool bases and like little outposts and like walls and stuff. And like and all across the land, and then the spelunking factor was the fun part about Terraria. Terraria's spelunking, in my opinion, was always superior to Minecraft, just because there was always a lot more to discover underground.
You can also see a bit more instead of just digging through a tunnel. That's a 2x1, you know.
That's
And
true.
then when you get to a area, the only reason it's lit up is because you brought in like 5 stacks of torches and just illuminated the entire cavern yourself.
Yep.
But yeah, for me, the spelunking is what Terraria carried it. And then Binsky recommended we putting up Starbound, and I'm curious to see what people's opinions are of this game. Because I remember kickstarting this with even more enthusiasm than I had for Terraria. Because for me, it was sci-fi, there was space, there was going to get your own spaceship, and there were planets, and then there were factions and races you could have reputations with. And that got me so stoked. Let's hear it.
Starbound. I played Starbound when it was still in beta, and they didn't know what to do with it. Because what they wanted to do was what Reguline said. They wanted to make Terraria, but with better gameplay. But the problem is when you're making a game where your sprites are so tiny and so stylized as well, it's really difficult to make like weapons, melee attacks that feel like they make sense. Because you're gonna have to make like the smears like 4 times bigger than the sword is, because otherwise, your reach is gonna be like 1 millimeter because your character is so small. Which was what they ended up doing, and it looked terrible. But not only that, but they just literally they did not know what they wanted to do with the game, how they wanted progression to work, and how they wanted materials to work. And they ended up reworking the game like 4 times
Yep.
from the ground up, and not always for the better either. And I still think that they don't really know where to go with it.
Yep.
And but the biggest the main falling, or the main the core flaw of Starbound versus Terraria, in my opinion, is that when you are playing multiplayer in Terraria, everyone is playing in the same world the whole time. While when you're playing Starbound, everybody has to like congregate on like one guy's ship, or you all like really hardcore designate like this planet is our base, and then we never ever go anywhere without anyone else. But it very very easily just ends up with everybody just kind of going off playing single player on different planets, and it just feels a lot more disconnected than Terraria does
That's
because
true.
of that.
That's true. So we've
Yeah.
we've implemented some rules in our community Valheim series that we're doing every Sunday. Every Sunday we play Valheim, but we have rules. A, you're not allowed to bring any gear outside of what gear we're at in terms of progression. That way players don't go off. B, everyone must sleep in the log house or the longhouse. No one is allowed to have their own bases. No one's allowed to have their own buildings. A, for server lag, one of the reasons. And B, because we're all playing together, it's actually an experience about playing together. Yes, it's a bit more role play-ish, but the role play factor, I think, improves the game. And honestly, this is something we learned from Project Zomboid. Project Zomboid, originally we'd all jump into VC and we'd not talk to, we all use
More
talk to each
gold,
other.
Your Majesty.
But when we did the proximity voice chat in PZ, and a couple house rules like, okay, it's a PvE server, all right, fair enough. But like everybody spawns in this area, and it's like, okay, we have to make a single base. We all have to work together, and these are like our main objectives. And then we all take on specific roles and professions. The game becomes incredibly better because the roleplay aspect fills in the part of the game that's kind of missing. Like it's missing an overall narrative objective. Project Zomboid's only stated objective in the beginning of the game is try to see how long you can live, and that's the end of the objective list for the developers. The rest is up to you, right? And so when you start adding these different sort of like okay, we're gonna do an expedition, we're gonna work together, and we're gonna explore this town, but we're only gonna be able to exploring this town together. No one's allowed to leave or go in advance. And if we do these expeditions together, what happens is the game becomes infinitely better because of that. Because we're doing exploration or we're fighting bosses together and we're always working together, the game has improved in a way I just can't quite compare. I can't. It's just it's so much better. It's hard to ever want to go back because mandating roleplay into these games has unironically made them better games.
Yeah.
And I think that helps minimize the metagaming. Now, if people are going to metagame, that's fine, because everyone's got to have their kick, right? What do you enjoy doing? If you want to min-max something, min-max it, have fun with it, right? It doesn't mean, we control how you play. But I think it's very important that when people play, they play together. And if you play together, you have a lot more fun. Because one of the problems I had with a lot of the previous games and even friend groups before I had the one I have now is that we'd sort of just like, well, let's play World of Warcraft together or something. And then everybody just run off and do their own things. And like nobody would try to stick together. People would level ahead without each other. And what that would do is that would just sort of made the game not very fun because everyone would just sort of be playing by themselves and just be talking to each other. it just
Mhm.
didn't carry the same weight as playing together. Playing together is so much more fun. The Valheim server has been incredibly fun. Having to live in the same longhouse means that we can make the construction projects much larger and more ornate in nature than we ever could otherwise. And now we can stockpile resources. We can have like hunter gatherers go hunter and gather, while Prav is building us our our forge, so we can forge all our items. Like it's been such a blast. And things like games with Starbound. Robin brings up that issue because that's why I talk about it. That's absolutely like something. And this game had so many problems. Like I remember playing it in its beta, and I remember playing it after the first major rework, and I remember Fairman telling me about it after it had launched, that there was this overhaul mod that people always recommend that you play Starbound with, which is basically like Starbound Plus or something, which is basically, I forget what it's called. But it makes Starbound into a bit more of a, how do I put it, a focused but bigger experience. And I've always thought about like revisiting this game, but I have such mixed feelings on it because it's like for me it's one of those things where it's like this Starbound represents my first disappointment. My second disappointment when it came to funding early access games was a game called Planetary Annihilation. Planetary Annihilation is a game that they don't sell it anymore because it's now called Titans, because they got such massive kickback because they didn't complete the game. But Planetary Annihilation was inspired by a game called Total Annihilation. It's an RTS in which you play as a commander and you build bases. But what's cool about Planetary Annihilation is that you build them on orbital celestial bodies. And you can go to different planets and you can throw planets at each other and you can capture Death Stars and blow up other planets in the system. You can go on an asteroid, fight on an asteroid, and then take control of it, build thrusters on the asteroid, shoot the asteroid at another planet to kill off an entire enemy player. And it's really cool, like the idea of it. And it's really fun. But the problem was is that these developers lied to Kip. They lied to Kip. And then they tried to launch a Kickstarter when this game wasn't done. Before the Titans expansion, by the way. Or the Titans expansion. The promised content that was never delivered. And they only did that because the reputation was that bad. Because they tried to kickstart a game called Human Resources. And a lot of people memory hold, or they tried to get people to memory hold that Planetary Annihilation wasn't finished. And they're working on another game called Industrial Annihilation. Now, I'm looking at that with some skepticism because it's basically this, but with Factorio.
That doesn't sound as cool as Planetary Annihilation, I'll be honest.
Industrial Annihilation, yeah, because Planetary Annihilation is just, it's such a novel concept. I think they should like try to expand on it because it is a cool idea for an RTS. It's very macro heavy to the point where you're fighting in the solar system.
Yeah.
It was honestly, it reminded me of Spore, another really, really cool fucking game that was ruined by the fact that it was forced to be made for kids.
I don't even know what Spore the game is, because all I've ever seen anyone do with Spore is just make like penises and like meme characters.
Yeah, pretty much.
People either fiddle around with the character creator in the creature stage, or they speedrun all the way to go befriend a hyper aggressive race that's at the center of the galaxy.
Oh, the
There's no
Groks.
between.
I remember
Yeah.
the Groks because I tried to wipe the fuckers out because I hate the Groks so much.
As far as I was aware, like Spore just became it
becomes tedious when you
a
get to space.
nonsense game is the problem.
Spore
Yeah.
is really fun when you're in the creature age, and then the minute it turns into an RTS when you become a tribe, it sucks. That's my opinion, because it's like
The
a
first
shitty.
2 stages had the most development.
It's a shitty RTS, is what it turns into. Spore should have been entirely focused on evolution to the tribal state and then end, and they can make another game, or something after that. But the whole like becoming a tribe and then uniting the tribes and then or conquering the other races and then becoming a nation thing was like really fucking lazy. Really lazy. Like it's hard to describe my disappointment as a kid when I got to the space age, man. Like space age turns into literally fucking a trial and test of patience, the video game. Where it's like, our colony's under attack, you gotta intervene or they'll get wiped out again. It's, oh my fucking.
Maybe
Only
they
Hope they get
deserve
wiped
to be
out.
wiped out.
maybe our species just wasn't meant to exist.
Because if they get wiped out, means they don't know how I gotta fucking help them no more.
Frederick wants to point out that we missed the first member chat.
Oh, we did?
From Jizuki.
And
Thought-
Terry.
I
I
thought I
got
got
it
Jizuki. Did I miss it again? What?
His membership, the disciple is quick.
All right, let's get it. Where's
You
it?
go to fan funding. Well, Harlot gives a membership, and Shizuki has been member for 5 months. Salutations. Hope everyone here is healthy and doing good. Having issues figuring out what is causing my OBS connection latency to be crimson red. Frustrating. Still not incredibly interested in TFW.
Oh,
The Forever Winter.
the Forever Winter. Yeah, we're talking about indie games. The reason why I use this to talk about it today, because Forever Winter inspired me to take a look at indie games and how indie games are doing in the indie sphere, if you will. And things are looking pretty good, all things considered. Just Forever Winter is just one of many titles, and it's fair. It's honestly, if you're not really ready to look at this game yet, it's okay to be patient. And if it's not your cup of tea, no shame, no harm, no foul. But I do think it is a good game. I do think it is a really good game. It's very fun. It's one of those games that it's hard to look at, and I think I should stream it without talking to somebody for a bit, or like without having Chatfish on, just to talk about it maybe once, because I think that would do it better justice, because we treat it like Helldivers too. And when we bring on guests and have the stream turn into a bit of a community stream sometimes, it is hard to talk about what's actually happening mechanically, because there's a lot of things that happen in this game that make it interesting with both awareness and stuff like that, and it becomes a very different beast of a game when you play it solo versus when you play it with like people.
I definitely think right now the intended play is solo.
But the multiplayer is so good, so good, so good.
Also,
The
was,
multiplayer drastically speeds up money making.
It does.
Was
You also
Terry
find
the
a lot
latest
more.
dono, Red?
Says, there's 20 North Koreans. Have you heard about the colony/empire game Ymir?
Ymir. No, I'm not. I will. Oh, that game! I have heard of it.
As soon as I saw the pig, it's like, no, you've heard of it.
This game's okay. Maybe it's changed a lot since then, but man, I did not care for this game at all. The idea of this game is really cool. It is a very autistic city building game where you play as little pig people. And the little pig people, there's other players, and you can play in this server. And you can host like a dedicated server, and stuff will like happen, right? So like you can trade with other players in your server and kingdoms, and you can go to war with them. And it's sort of like Dominions in that sense, Robin, if that paints a picture in your mind. But with like city building. And here's like the map, right? So this is like, okay, these are the territories you own, and then like, but you, it's sort of like Songs of Six, honestly, but with multiplayer.
I was just thinking Songs of Six.
That map layout made me think of some
But Songs of Six is better.
mobile city builder games.
Songs of Six is also one of those early access games that I really hope that they progress and it gets good updates, because it has a lot of potential, but in the state it is right now, I couldn't really recommend it to anyone. But I really hope that it
I really
continues to
like
improve.
Songs of Six, but it's one of those games where I feel like, how do I put it? It's in the same boat I put Forever Winter. It's really fun and really good. It's a game I recommend wishlisting, but they need to add a lot more to it, refinement wise.
The problem with the Songs of Six is that once you've played it for a bit, you begin to realize that almost every playthrough is the same, because there's very little like personalization you can do. You pretty much have to play it in a certain way, otherwise you just can't progress. So
it becomes a bit repetitive, and that's one of the issues. I think they need to explore the different races more and make them have different viable paths to experiment for each race.
Yes, yeah, because there's literally like only one viable path that you can take for them. because the game, it's a little bit hard to understand how the game works because it works in a specific way. You're supposed to really, really min-max your population's happiness and like everything. You're not supposed to progress unless everything is like perfectly balanced, because that's what it's more about. Like it's about balancing the books in your town pretty much, and then you progress slowly and you rebalance things as you gain like 2 more guys, you know.
And you build like these massive armies too. Oh my god, pretty cool.
But there's pretty much just like one thing you can do, because the way the tech trees and everything work, you always unlock the same things in the same time at the same, you know, because it's just how it works. Everything is quite linear when you do things. I really wish it was more open, you know. You have access to everything right from the get-go, more or less. You know, I can start building a carpenter and a blacksmith or something right away, but it's from the beginning you can build a carpenter. That's it.
Yeah, there's not a lot of room
And then
to
you get a
experiment.
tailor. That's it.
Yeah, so it's got a very Songs of Six is really fun, and I would say that for the first time playthrough, it's really really good. But the big problem is that when it comes to replaying it, and I didn't get very far in it because I'm letting this boy cook, but I know a lot of people who do, and a lot of the things I always hear is that it's sort of the same every playthrough, because the big problem is that there's not a lot of varieties to start, if that makes sense. Like there is, like, in the sense that you can choose like starting in a place with lots of food or not lots of food, or, you know, verdant things to grow areas or not, you know. But it really needs more different ways to build up your settlement, and I think more diplomatic options, and especially when it comes to trade and stuff. Like, it's really cool. It's really interesting, but it's one of those games that they're intending to launch, I think, the next quarter of next year.
Yeah.
Which is what Chad said too, and I'm pretty sure that's supposed to come in 2025. And I don't think
Yep.
it's quite at that state yet. But even if they do, quote unquote, do the 1.0 launch, I hope it's like Factorio, as in like they this is just step one. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because it shouldn't just be it. Because this game is really fun. If you like city builders and you wanted Dwarf Fortress to be that city builder, but it just didn't quite capture it because it didn't have that feeling. This to me is what I wish Dwarf Fortress was. Because
Yeah.
Dwarf Fortress is not my kind of game. If it's your game, great. But this is my Dwarf Fortress for me. And I hope that this developer is like that when it comes to his game. Because it would really suck if he just stopped developing this and made Songs of Six 2, because I really don't think that he should do it that way. I think he should just keep building on this one, because really it needs massive expansion. More like the race thing is really cool. So in this game, there's multiple little races and they have different needs, and there's race crimes that they'll commit against each other too. Like, unironically, like racism will get so bad in your city if you're not careful that hate murder crimes, not like hate speech, like fake shit, right? Like
That people will
fucking
actively go out and start race wars, you know?
yeah, and start like actual riots and stuff. Like that is a thing that happens if you let certain races in, because they're not compatible with other races. And so if they have to live in the same quarter, that can be an issue. And certain populations don't want to intermingle. And certain populations are racist towards different other types of races, but will tolerate other races what better. And it's really cool because it's nice to see a game actually have stuff and mechanics for that. And it's I just wish they would expand the races a bit more. Like the races, I think, are the strongest aspect of Songs of Six, unironically. The fact that
for
they have different...
replayability. Yeah, because I like playing like a
gold, Your
mono
Majesty.
race playthrough where I only have dwarves. I only have, well, they're not called dwarves; they're called something else. But you know, like the last thing I played were the lizard people, and it's still pretty samey, to be honest. But the fact that they're so different still, like the fish people want fish, obviously, but they're also most happy when they live in clay houses, which makes building a lot of houses like really easy, and those kind of things. While if you're playing dwarves, you have to be like really really careful not to progress too fast, because dwarves are grumpy as shit, and they also all have to live inside of mountains. Otherwise, they're just gonna kill themselves. They cannot live
Whoa.
outside.
What do you mean? This stone isn't inside more stone.
So that's one place where you can at least find some um, freshness when you play a new game in that game. So I really like that aspect.
Do you see Songs of Conquest as an indie title? Is it?
Isn't it indie?
I mean, it doesn't matter how I see things. There's only to be an indie. No, they're not. They're not an indie because they have a publisher. They're like, for example, Barotrauma. Barotrauma has a publisher, if I remember right. It started off
I
indie,
mean-
but I think they have a publisher.
It depends. It depends a little bit, right? Because it depends on when they got the publisher too. Because I think Songs of Six is crowdfunded, right? But
Thought it was.
because
Songs of Sixes.
some games,
No, we're talking about Songs of Conquest is what he was asking.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant. Songs of, because it really depends on, was the game indie when it came out? Because later on, some games stop being, or some studios stop being indie later
They
on.
get picked
For
up.
example, Path of Exile, for example, as I've mentioned before, were indie for a really long time, for probably like 10 years. And then they got picked up by Tencent later on, which was very controversial, by the way.
Yep, understandable, because Tencent has a bit of a reputation. Have I played Drakensong? Isn't that Drakengard or whatever it's called? That's that game.
don't
That's the
think it's-
fucking the Yokotaro game, isn't it?
No.
No, it's a German game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Drakensong.
Yeah, it's a German RPG.
Isn't that German? Dragon Song? My
Yeah.
German is super rusty. No, I've not. Never played it. Never played it. Do know of it, though. I do recognize the name. I'm pretty sure I sent you keys for Songs of Conquest Kips. You did, Hootini? Do I even own it? I don't think I must. I must not have accepted. I looked at it with skepticism. So, okay. So, the thing is with this game is I think the sprite art looks really good on the surface, but the animations, I hate. I know. That might not be a big deal for some people. But for me, I'm a bit autistic. It has to do with how sprites when they hit each other, and it bothers me. And it's actually the reason why I refund. Actually, no, the reason why I refunded was the songs. The songs were so bad. Okay, so in the game, there's songs that sing about the different characters and what they do. And I'm not a big fan of the story of this game. I think the story sucks, but that's my opinion. If you like this game, awesome. But like for me, oh my god, I hate that. I hate how they do that. Oh, it bothers me so much.
What did they do?
Oh, the way they flash and the way it's all in 3D and stuff. I don't like it. It looks ugly when it does that. I wish they didn't do that. I wish they didn't flash or flicker. It makes me feel like I'm playing like an old game that's like crashing. I know. Chat. I say this all the time. Don't get hyperfixated on certain things. This is unfortunately something when I first played that I fixated on. And like it's forever
Flashing and
burned.
flickering?
Yeah, like when they hit each other.
Like the flash of the
The thing to actually
impact.
indicate
Yeah,
that
okay,
a model has been hit.
watch the sprite. The sprites do this thing, and the sprites look really cool, but they do this thing that bothers me, and it's an autism thing, Jan. I'm sorry, but like, you watch this sprite here. He's gonna stretch and squeeze when it happens, and it messes up the pixel art, and he flashes, and like his color disappears. Oh, I hate that. That's so
You see, chat, this is just Kibbs being autistic.
it gets bigger. Like, why does it turn white and get bigger? Like, it ruins the sprite. It ruins the sprite. It's. I know, chat. For some of you that you're like, dude, who cares? And the second thing that bothers me is the 3D environment. I wish this game was just 2D. I don't like the fact that it's 3D.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pixel artist and I'm a pixel art purist, so personally, not a huge fan of pixel art in 3D spaces. But when they attack each other, at least, and they flash, I think that's that way it should be. but the stretching and squishing and stuff like that, I could probably live with that. Yeah.
Because these sprites actually look really cool. Like this turtle dude, like the sprite looks nice. The soldier's he's okay. He's not very good. I think the problem is that the humans are a little too small, so they look a little bit too disinteresting compared to the monstrous creatures. And that's part of the problem. I think we get bonked. And it's got a really neat art style, but the big thing that hurt me on this game wasn't anything in particular. It or not hurt me, but bugged me it was the songs and the story. Because the only reason why I'd play this game would be for the single player campaign, and I just didn't really like the story at all. It just didn't connect with me. Some people might like it.
I mean,
I thought the songs for the characters were really bad. I burst out laughing. I still feel bad about it. Because I did that on stream when I played this. I started laughing because it was so cringe. I couldn't stop laughing at the game, and then I felt bad. So then I was like, I'm never gonna stream this again because I feel like I'm being mean. But like I don't know why the song just couldn't, like, it just didn't connect. It felt tacky, and it's got conflicting art styles. Like this, as somebody who's a bit of a I'm a big like art direction, right? It's got 3D intermixed with 2D. It doesn't look quite like it fits. Like Doom feels a little bit better in terms of how that works there, and it still looks a little goofy at times. But like it's got like high res profiles and stuff. Like here's high res art on the UI, and it contrasts really badly with the art style of everything else. And you've got these high res effects next to sprites, and because you have these high res and non sprite animations and effects next to low res sprites, like here, that sprite right there, you see that, Robin?
which one?
Like you see this right here,
The
right?
fire?
Yeah. See how stretched
Yeah.
that is? That's pixel art. That's stretched. And so the pixels on
Yeah.
this are not only at an angle compared to this, but it's just
Yeah.
it's repulsive to me.
I know a lot of people don't
Some-
understand it.
Some people won't care, but like for me, this is like the worst thing I've ever seen.
But it's kind of like mixing. Well, I mean, it is literally like mixing. They are literally mixing 3D with 2D. But it makes the art feel like billboards. You know, it stands out in a way that isn't entirely immersive, and yeah.
And the character designs, like, I'm just not sold on these characters. They are not very appealing. Like the art direction for the characters are very meh. The coolest faction in this game, for me personally, was the frog people. Frog people were cool. Everyone else kind of looked kind of dumb. Look at this fucking dude. Look at that fucking dude.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I didn't play it that much. I think it looks pretty good, to be honest. But I'm not a huge fan of the 3D mixed with 2D. But that's not really my biggest problem with it. My biggest problem is that it's Heroes of Might and Magic 3, and I don't really I don't agree with the gameplay design.
That's fair.
Like how you stack units and stuff like that.
We all have
never
different,
understood it.
We all have different tastes and preferences, and that's what I mean. If you like Heroes of Might and Magic, chat, and you were looking for something more like that, there's another Heroes of Might and Magic game in development, an actual Heroes of Might and Magic game in development. But yeah, for me, this game just couldn't quite capture me, and I appreciate that, Harlot. But I think you should give your game, if you wanted to gift it to somebody who would actually appreciate this, because I don't think I would appreciate that as much as somebody else, in my opinion. Because I just don't. I have my reasons why I don't like this game, and they may not be the best of reasons for some people. But like, oh my god, I cannot stand that art.
I'm curious
That's
on what Robin thinks on Heroes Hour.
Heroes
what?
Hour.
I don't know what that is.
No, it's
How do you spell it?
it just hero then apostrophe S. There it is, the top.
That's a bit. Oh.
What's just that?
That's a bit. That's a
Oh,
bit
this
too
game.
bland.
Isn't this game an autoplay?
Gold, Your Majesty.
It's kinda.
Wait a minute. I
It
played
actually
this.
it just stacks. It's
Yeah, I played this for like 10 minutes and was like, not feeling it. I just put it on the shelf. This is like another Heroes of Might Magic game, isn't it?
It is, but
Yes.
the stacks actually generate a model for each number of the stack on the field. When you
No,
have like 100 archers, it spawns 100 archers,
Mm-hmm.
which is neat, but that's about it. That's neat.
I don't
Yeah,
know. Visually,
I'm just not a
uninspired.
I'm just not a huge fan of strategy or strategy adjacent games that just
Yeah, he's a
kind
weirdo.
of turn into that just turn into like death balls.
The thing is that is basically most strategy games, though.
Yeah, I know.
That is a problem with a lot of strategy games. Actually, I agree with that. See, as a big RTS fan, I hate death balls. I think death balls is where people go to loot. That's where the strategy of the game dies. I hate death balls.
When you start making death stacks is when I start getting annoyed because like you're just making one army then.
It's like one
Yeah,
army,
yeah.
and it loses any sense of strategy or immersion, or it just becomes a little.
I
lame.
would disagree there. The strategy is how quickly can you get to the death ball.
That's true. That's true. I mean, you're not wrong. I'm not gonna dispute there, but definitely, it's not much.
I agree. Like once you get to the death ball, congratulations, you've won the game, you won the map. But the strategy at that would be how quickly and effectively can I get there? That would be the strategy.
Because for me, I like having like actual strategy. Because this is a little blobby, right? But we talked about Star Sector earlier, and Star Sector, yes, you can have lots of ships and stuff, but you actually have to like pause and like switch control and like move ships around, and it's all about positioning and maneuvering, and making sure you don't get in front of like your lines of fire and stuff like that. And so, it never really becomes a death ball in a game like this, and that's why I like games like this. Or Sins of Soul Empire, for example. Sins of Soul Empire is like, okay, you can only have so many ships because your empire can only logistically support so many. I wish you could expand the cap, right? And I wish that Sins of Soul Empire 2 did not merge the corvettes and frigates onto the same pop cap, because now there's no reason not to build capital ships. That's what I liked about the old Sins of Soul Empire Rebellion. Because Sins of Soul Empire Rebellion is you have your basic like frigate cap, so it's like, okay, you have frigates and cruisers, and they
Then
serve
you
a
had your
function.
corvettes.
Then you have your capital ships, and then you have your Titan, right? And then it's like, okay, so you got to break down that you can only have this many capital ships. You can't just build nothing but it. And merging that pop cap into one bar sort of turned it into the idea of just being like, well, if you're gonna build anything, build the late game thing. This is a massive problem in certain strategy games. As a strategy game player myself, that I just really don't like. Dawn of War 3 did this, and I hate Dawn of War 3. Dawn of War 3.
Also, I remember some of the mods for FAF where it's like after a certain point, why bother building regular units? Just build experimentals.
Yeah, just build experimentals. There's no point. Yeah, because what I like is games that enforce an arbitrary limit on, like, okay, you can only build like these are super units, and you can only build like 2 or 3 of them, or one, or a couple of them, because they're so powerful that you can't build that many. You can't just build nothing but them. You have to build something else, right? And so in this game, Dawn of War 3, you start the early game and it's kind of fun. It's a bit scrappy fighting, right? Skirmishy. And you got like infantry maneuvering around, and it's kind of fun in the early stages of the multiplayer. It's actually kind of fun. However, as soon as you get to the mid to late game transition period, where you're moving up in terms of resource management and basically getting towards the end stages of the game, where you're going to start, trying to win and make your major pushes, infantry become a detriment, because they eat up your pop cap and resources to the point where they're not worth building. And so what it turns into, build tanks and nothing but tanks, and for the infantry slot, just build this one specific anti-tank unit. And that's what the game becomes. There's no reason to build any regular infantry squads because they serve no function or purpose anymore in the game anymore. And so it just becomes sort of samey and one-dimensional in the late stages of gameplay. Versus if you go to the older Dawn of Wars, it was a bit different. Now, I'm not a big fan of Dawn of War 2 multiplayer, but Dawn of War 1, I loved this one so much. This one may
I
kick.
like Dawn of War 2 best.
I'm gonna crush your balls.
Dawn
Dawn of War 2
But I
had,
don't like RTS games.
Dawn of War 2 had a fun campaign because leveling up your squads and getting gear and stuff was cool. Dawn of War 2 is unironically an ARPG, basically. Almost.
Yeah. I mean, it's ground control. Like you just have your army and then you go and fight. It's just like tactics, and after that,
You can say there's no Dawn of War 3 Jaegermans, but we all know there's there. I can't. I played through the entire campaign. I can't forget that shit. It's forever burned into my mind. From now until the ends of the earth. Dawn of War 2 multiplayer wasn't very fun. The campaign was the best in the series. Yes. Dawn of War 2 campaign, awesome. Fucking love it. It's honestly better than the originals campaigns, and it hurts me to say that. But
mostly due to because it actually has a narrative, unlike
Yes.
the other one, which is just
it's like
your
just
mission is to do this. Okay.
attack this part of the. Well, the first one had an actual proper campaign. The first Dawn of War actually is a fun campaign. It has a story that's cool. The other ones are just like paint the map your color on like a risk board, and it's kind of quaint, but like I kind of miss the narrative missions. Oh my god, the Hungarian studio that made this fucking intro animation, I love them. If I could afford them, I would. They
But,
made a lot of cool fucking intros. God damn, the CG's so good. What?
one of the things that I want from strategy games, like I don't like RTS games because I think they're just too stressful and hectic, and
You're hurting me.
I just don't like the single player aspect of them. Like I just see them as multiplayer games personally. But like if you enjoy the single player aspect, that's fine. But I can enjoy turn-based strategy games. Like I really want to enjoy like CK3 or Stellaris or whatever, but they're all usually lacking when it comes to military strategy, where it usually ends up to like you just walk around a little bit on enemy territory and that's about it. And really the only game I've ever played that has any more depth to it is still pretty janky, and that's Shadow Empires. But and I didn't really play it that much. But my experience with Shadow Empires was that there was like one AI north of me, and so I built a road up there, and then I started sieging one of his forts. And while I was sieging his forts with all of my troops, he sent one squad of infantry with like a jeep around, and then he took my road. And now I didn't have a supply line to my army. And because he could do that with like one single unit, he forced me to retreat entirely. And that's the kind of depth that I want to find in a strategy game, where it's not just about having the biggest army and just like walking in, but there has to be more parts to it, where doing like strategically smart things matter, right? It's often, even if you go and like you start taking things in the enemy's base, because he just has like a bigger death ball, he's just gonna go faster and take all your shit instead, you know.
Yep, I mean that's one of the problems with like I really love Command and Conquer as a series, and I always will.
Yeah.
But Command and Conquer is once you reach a certain critical threshold, there is a point of what I call no return, where unless you intentionally sabotage yourself or you pull a brainlet move, you are winning or you are going to lose. Like it is down to your opponent making a mistake or a fuck up. And that's the point in which I think RTS games suffer the most. And it's that point in which it's like, all right, it's over at this point. It's just the mop up phase. So it's like, all right, do you want to like try to fight it out, or do you want to like just give up? And my biggest problem when it comes to the competitive side for that, when it comes to strategy games, is that it always turns into like everyone I play with, like, you just back out, you just surrender, and it's like, well, I don't want to play anymore. Like I'm tired of
Yeah.
games like that are just not fun for me because like I don't want to like, okay, we just surrender. Like it's just like, okay, I'm done with games like that.
I will say for the people that think like that, because I'm one of them, the issue is after a certain point, it is just a waste of time.
See, for me, it's all about like having
More
fun.
gold,
like,
Your Majesty.
The thing. One thing I really enjoyed about what was it, Tiberian Sun or whatever, is when I was playing this one game with a bunch of friends. Is we built like little bases and we built like these walls, right? And we were like, we let each other build up as much defense as possible, and then we wailed on each other. And what was fun about that was that we were just fucking around and role playing it, right? And so it was like, you know, the I forget what we built, this massive fort in the middle of the map. Tyler and I did, and we called it Fort Knox, and named after the real Fort Knox. And it was like literally this massive siege where there's this huge battle that took place to take Fort Knox, and it took forever, but they eventually like took it from us. And like it was about like the journey to retake Fort Knox and like the attempt to take it back, and it was like really cool. And that was fun. That was a lot of fun doing stuff like that and just like messing around. And yeah, sure, like it was kind of over for us, but it was like one of those things that was just fun. What I don't like anymore is like when I played Company Heroes 3 with a couple of friends of mine, is that it just turned into, let's just quit. Oh, we lost. Let's quit. Oh, we quit. Lost. Let's quit. This one's not good. Quit. All right, we're winning this one. Let's keep playing. It's like, oh, like it's no longer fun when a game becomes about just winning. To me, like if it's just about winning, then I don't want to play it anymore. And that's where I'm at spiritually with strategy games. Like when I do like battles and Total War, and what I really enjoyed about Medieval 2 is like I'm defending with the fucking divide and conquer mod. I was like, oh, this is the defense of Osgiliath, you know. We're not gonna win. We're gonna be overrun by a bajillion orcs, but it's like this is gonna be their heroic last stand. And as many of them they kill here is like that many less we have to deal with later. It's like, okay, that I can get behind. But for me, that's how I view strategy games nowadays. Like if you can't get into it and just roll with the punches, then I think that there's really just no point playing the game at all anyways. If you're only in it to win it, there's just no point. It's just like a waste of time. It's like, because RTSs are not quick games. They're like an hour long, sometimes longer. And it's like, if you're going to be like, oh my God, it's game over, like, let's just quit out. Like, I just don't want to play. It's just no point. It's like, we're already invested. Why not see it to the end, right? Okay, we're going to lose, but let's try our best to make it as much of a Pyrrhic victory for them as possible, to the point where we have a heroic, that's how I view it, right? You may have lost that game, but it was a heroic, valiant defense. You know, you went down swinging. They struggled to bring you in. Like a little spurg you made them pay for every inch of soil and ground they took. And that's what I can get behind. And it's like, that was a good game. That was a fun game. Like, oh my God, it was a close game, you know, or it was a game where it was like, damn, you put up one hell of a fight there. Like, that was fun. Like, that was what I always enjoyed about playing Red Alert 2 with my friends, is because that's how we played it. The base crunch is what we always called it. The base crunch is like the part where their base is like getting attacked and you're starting to push into their base, but they're still fighting. And so it's the base crunch phase of the game. Yes, it's over, but the fun part is fighting through their base and tearing it apart piece by piece, as they're desperately trying to repel each wave as long as they can, as if it was like a wave survival defense game. And that's how I think games should be played. More fun. Every aspect should be looked at positively, you know? Yeah, it's the lose phase of the game, but it doesn't mean you can't have fun with it. In StarCraft 2 ladders, I would never surrender. I just kept playing. And people would get so mad about it. And it's like, but I enjoy resisting. I enjoy fighting back.
I will say this, Gibbs, that's that is a valid interpretation, but that interpretation is a very small minority of the player base
and so,
of any RTS game.
Everyone else, I'm sorry, but you don't matter. The reality is that this is fun. And just because of that, like, I can't tell you how many games I won. Like, it wasn't even funny, because either A, they would make mistakes because they were getting so mad, because they'd let their emotions take control, and then you just beat them, and then they would just fucking scream. They would fucking scream.
You're kind of an asshole, you know that?
No, the reality is they didn't win. Because if they won, the game over screen would hit. I didn't hear no bell.
Literally had exact same situations in Dota.
Yeah, I mean, RTS games are very much a test of your long-term focus as well. Like eventually you will start losing focus, and then you might stop producing units as well, and you might stop microing as well. And
Yep, because
if you
that's
can
that happens.
outlast the other guy in that,
And then
that's
you-
a valid
and then you
strategy.
I
beat
can
them.
at least I can understand that argument, but for me, if the base game isn't that fun, you know which game I'm talking about, Gibbs. Then if we're
Come here,
losing
sweet.
after the certain point, I do not engage with it at all.
See, with Company Heroes 3, you should just not have wasted your time with that pile of trash. It's just a
Oh,
bad
oh, I shouldn't have wasted my time.
game.
And you keep
Oh,
roping him into it.
Firstly, I haven't roped him into that in ages. Because thing is, if I was getting dragged down, I'm just gonna drag my friends down with me, so we can be down together. You know. So we can be. gotta
no,
look at the
suffer by
pros.
yourself.
Suffer by yourself. I'm glad you suffered with me. And you know what, Hans? Despite that, I appreciate that you put up with that bad game with me. You know, because your suffering, unironically, made the game somewhat. No, the
I
game
seem to
wasn't
remember
good.
you telling me that Hans, you can't get angry anymore.
You
I seem to remember that conversation.
Okay, you got a little too mad that one time, so we had to yell at you.
But one time,
Yeah.
one time.
Maybe several. All right, guys, let's drop the subject because it's not making me look any better here. It's not making
Well, if
Okay,
you want to
well, you
drop the
got
subject,
yeah, you got
there's
two
two
donos.
donos.
two
Yes, there
donos.
are.
What? Just like, yeah, I guess we like him a little bit.
What's
So-
from Terratine?
Terratine donates
He
50.
donates.
Oh, good. No, you
Are you
got
gonna
it.
read it or have we read it?
You know what? I'll let you read it. I'm gonna grab a drink while you read them.
Terratine donates 50 North Koreans. What's your view on the indie R18 Aero game? A lot of good ones have come out and a lot of shovelware, but some are better than normal AAA games.
Yeah, Kibbs, what's your thought on
Porn
hentai porn
games.
games?
Yeah.
So hentai games.
Where's Sandro? Sandro!
Sandy.
More
Sandy.
gold, Your
we know you're a
Majesty.
connoisseur. Don't you lie to
Where's our
us.
Swiss friend who's just so obsessed with that? Oh God, I hope Sandy's doing all right. I haven't talked to him in a while. He's probably skiing down mountains right now. But either way, our little ski friend would be far more familiar with the subject. But when it comes to hentai games being good is good. In general, there's like I don't know. Them
Can't
being
argue with that, dude.
more good games on the market is a positive thing, and for people that like hentai games, it's awesome. Like that's good. It's a different genre. There are a lot of women and men that enjoy those types of games. For me, unfortunately, I just don't care about that kind of stuff in a video game format. But just because I don't care does not mean that them being bad is a good thing. Like it's good that there's more games that they're getting, you know?
Here's my opinion on that style
Hentai
of game.
games.
Why are you there? If you're there to get a certain reaction, there are plenty of websites on the internet where you can just get to that faster.
Here, you know what? I'll
It's
play
about the hunt. It's about the hunt, Hans.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate, you know? It's like you're hunting the woman, you know, you can't let her get away. It's the caveman instinct. I'm gonna take my bottle and bonk her over the head, and now she's mine. Taking her back for the breeding.
Hands is firmly in the if you can't play it one-handed, what's the point camp.
So, my problem with hentai games in general is that it's counterintuitive. Let's say you're trying to do a sex fight or whatever.
Sex fight.
You're more busy you're more busy trying to do the fucking gameplay than you are jerking off. And that's kind of the point of the fucking porn game.
Well, maybe
That's
hold
what I
on,
mean. Like,
Hold on.
what is the reason you play?
Okay, so maybe it's not necessarily so. Hold on. Maybe okay. Think.
You can't defend it.
I've got this. Hold on. I got you, porn bros. I'm
You
on your
don't,
side.
but go ahead and try.
All right. So the entire purpose of those sections of the game is more so the fun of you can lose them, and it's like oh I lost. I got raped by the girl. I don't. It's like it's one of those things where it's like okay. It's not necessarily that they're jerking off when playing these games. But it's
It's a fucking
conversation.
porn game. That's the
I like
point.
how,
Well,
yeah,
hold
I like
on.
how he tried to say
Maybe
it with a straight face.
Because when you look at pretty women, you get dopamine in your brain. Or usually of the opposite sex. That usually happens. You feel good. Some people might just play these games because they find it fun, and they just feel good. Like, yeah, sex and stuff, and then they don't even do it, and they just walk off after the game and they go play something else.
Maybe they
I feel
just
like we
like
need a
looking at
policy.
porn, like not from a sexual point of view. You know, they just enjoy the aesthetics of it.
I really enjoy the act of procreation. Yep, she's making babies, all right. She's making
Harlot has you
babies.
as the answer. Reguline, it's an advanced form of edging.
It's an advanced form of edging.
Oh yeah, torture. There you go. It's torture. Great.
Again, that's why I said, what is your reason for playing? If you're playing it just to get your rocks off, like there are other websites and places that it's just faster to.
Well, hence.
And if
Well,
and if
You're
and
being
if
a
it's an
little
actual,
autistic. What if they want
and
it
if
to
it's
be elongated?
wait, Kiss. I have a point here. If it's an actually good quality game, why make it a fucking porn game to begin with?
Because that sells.
You know, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with them being porn games if they want to.
I don't have a like aversion to like those types of games existing. I don't care. Like if you think like you can make a good one, go ahead. That's great.
In fact, I think unironically porn games are probably more interesting than straight up porn themselves. They're far more interesting than like a porn actor and actress just like boinking each other. That
There's
you know
a
what?
There's a difference between like a
At least
visual
art went
novel
into
hentai
it. They had
than
to think
a-
about it. They had to game design it. They had to
game.
fucking write the script for it. They had to make the art for it. Fuck, it's way more interesting production wise. I'll say that much.
No, Kip. I want you to imagine, right? Let's say you're tugging your little kid, right?
You're little big Gib.
He's a little guy.
You're stroking your little Stalin.
Yeah.
Get his
And
mustache.
all of a sudden, there's a mini game. So you gotta take your hand off your little kid and put it back to the keyboard so you can do the mini game. So then you can continue masturbating.
Honestly, I haven't really
It's
thought about the
fucking-
logistics of this.
It's
But
awful. It's
But
retarded.
what if, and hear me out, what if they're not actually playing with their little kids, you know? What if they're just playing the game?
Enjoying the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, God,
What
that
if-
was, I really appreciated how, you know, my character got, you know, fucked over really good here. You know, and I'm going to go to bed with a happy face knowing that my character, you know, had a good night, you know?
So I have
I
a good idea. I have a
Okay.
good suggestion here.
By that
How-
logic, you're also cooked, yes.
How about we tackle the next donation?
Okay.
True. We are getting
Irritating
stumped on this.
donates 100 North Koreans. What I wish more RTS games did in the campaign is the thing that Warzone 2100, where you keep and make your forces more experienced and better in combat. And then he donates another 100 North Koreans. Didn't Rise of Nations have a doomsday clock when the first nuke is launched? And you can F everyone over if you are losing by spamming nukes and get the
Yep.
Armageddon thing?
Yep, you can get an Armageddon winning. So Rise of Nations is a really fun game that I really wish would get a sequel, but Microsoft, for some reason, will just not bring this game back because they just hate me, I guess. But
did?
Rise of Nations is,
Specifically, yeah.
is basically like sort of like similar to Age of Empires and Empire Earth, but Rise of Nations is unironically better than all of them. And the reason why I say that is because I really like this game. I think this is really cool because it's got like, you know, industry and it's more abstracted macro RTS than Age of Empires is. You build a city and your culture or whatever, and then you know, move up the technologies to the industrial age into the modern era. And yes, you can nuke the world to start the doomsday clock if you nuke the world too much, where basically radiation kills everyone, and you get the ending where it's like, well, none of them won. And yes, that is a viable strategy in Rise of Nations, which can be picked up.
More gold, Your Majesty.
Terry Team donates 50 North Koreans. Some of them have a lot of story with some sex, so then Mass Effect is a porn game since it has
All
sex
right.
in it.
We're gonna move
No.
on. We're gonna move on from this subject because we're getting stumped on a dumb point. All right, so beyond Rise of Nations, there is other games of interest, and these other games are need to think of them for just a second. None of you are allowed to speak for the foreseeable future. Oh, where'd my little Steam button go?
Okay, but you missed the membership.
Oh, we did. What is the membership?
Do the end's been member for 21 months. Hey, cutie, how long before your hentai game comes out again?
Well, we're not developing one, so probably infinite amount of time. So, Planetary Annihilation is a game in which I was disappointed in. Synthetic Legion is a game I never got around to playing. It's rather unfortunate. And Diplomacy Not an Option, Project Zomboid, and Factorio. All right, so now I'm back on subject. Bleak Faith, Squilly. Tell us about this game.
This game fucking sucks.
Gold, Your Majesty.
I
Okay.
feel like that's
This
always
is an
your-
example of a developer, a very small developer team, cutting corners. So they wanted to release their game, not in early access, just release it in total. So their solution was to purchase Unreal Store assets for their game. So whatever quality they could have had with the overall like world design that they had just ripped from Blame, the manga, any story ideas they wanted to do kind of just goes out the fucking window when they're buying assets from the Unreal Store. Assets, by the way, that were ripped from Elden Ring and Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
This is an example of a developer that was cutting corners to get to release their game that they wanted to make. They since undid those animations, like they added their own personal animation and removed those, which is good. But this game was such a shit show after its release that I thought it was a fascinating idea, like a showing of what comes from developers who cut corners.
It feels tacky when developers do that. Like, very tacky.
I haven't played the game recently, but from what I know, that it's got the same combat and the same combat fucking terrible, so I don't think it'd be any better. Besides just having its own personal assets. Games kicked on its $1. As a connoisseur of scatter mods, I want a good-ish RPG with an occasional lewd moment of whatever. Like when my succubus assassin makes an intimate kill while her yinglet followers look on in awe and fear. I think Genghis needs to be castrated.
Gengoid will be put on the rotisserie fish. He's like, what? As he rotates, he's like, kind of warm.
Damn it.
Kind of warm. Just a chatfish rotating over a fire slowly, like, this is so bad. How about living with Kibster, monochrome fantasy? I don't even know what that is. But on the subject back to indie games, because we have waffled away from them yet again, my friends. Indie games, I do believe, are in a positive, I think, place right now, industry-wise. We've got a lot of titles. A lot of things are good. Songs of Six is looking good, right? It's got a lot of progress it needs to make still. Forever Winter, not bad. Project Zomboid, not bad. But it's just one of those things where it's I think it's really down to the fact that we gotta be patient, little chapros. Like, that's the reality. Some good games take time to develop, and if you want games now and like next year or like whatever, like, oh, I want it now, like, impatience is often punished. Because the sooner we get games, the faster, like, do you really want Total War games to come out every year? And that's a bad mentality. And that's the mentality people have nowadays. Originally, I was young and naive, and I wanted a good game come out sooner, faster. Well, the reality is you get what you fucking deserve when you ask for things like that. Is you want more Total War games every year? Okay, you're going to get yearly Total War games. They suck. Now what? Now you're getting no good games, and they have less mechanics and features than all of the ones that came before. Was this what you wanted? No, I mean, it wasn't what you wanted. You wanted more good games. But the thing is, you wanted more games, and you're willing to pay for them. And Creative Assembly saw that and took that as okay, we'll just make more games and make them quicker and faster, and people will buy them. And the problem with doing that is that it opens the way for bad business practices to be reinforced in the industry. Look no further than non-indie titles like Crusader Kings, right? Or even let's look at something new. Hearts of Iron just announced another new expansion that adds one mechanic, basically, that isn't like a moddable thing. Where was it? I even got the season pass because I'm gonna have to stream this. Okay, it's got the Demaroon, a German chatfish, if you will. And if you scroll down and you look at its list of features, right, you read and you weep. Okay, that wasn't really the expansion. There. I forget that's the bundle. They have them separate. That's how Steam organizes. There. There we go. Now I'm in the right thing. There are 3 things here, right? And like, okay, how much is this, right? And it's like, oh, you know, it's probably like 15, 20 bucks like the other ones, if I had to guess, right? Based on what we know pricing wise. But these focuses, literally mods. There are mods for stuff like that. So that's kind of ignorable. Special projects. Build scientific facilities to pursue advanced research and special assigning scientists to further your war effort. Special projects include nuclear physics, advanced aircraft, rocketry, advanced tanks, artillery. Basically, researching things that weren't made historically, right? Like the rat, you know, things, goofy things. Okay, that's neat, but that's also like, but there are mods that kind of do this. So they're adding a mechanic, okay, and they're adding one more mechanic here, which is the raid system, allowing you to raid supplies and logistic things. That's neat, and some like upgrades to the map so you view it. But when you look at this, these 3 things here, and these are the 3 things that are only worth noting. You should really be asking yourself, shouldn't this be an update? Shouldn't this be a patch? Shouldn't this be in the base game? Shouldn't this have all been in the base game? And when you ask yourself, the ability to edit your tanks in this game, or edit your planes, or your warships in Hearts of Iron, shouldn't that have been in the base game? Why are we paying for that? Like, it's just silly. Like, spies. Like, there were no spies in the base game. Like, there's no spy mechanics. The ability to sell arms wasn't even in the game. Like, things that happened historically in World War II and in previous Hearts of Iron titles that did exist are now being charged for. And this is again to talk back to the subject of you get what you demand. You get what you ask for. You get what you deserve.
And you get what you pay for.
Yes.
Because buying these expansions means that you're telling them, yes, I will pay for things that were
for
bog
this
standard in the previous game.
For these companies, it's too late. That will not change. Sadly. There is no will in the community to change that. But for companies like Fundog Studios or other little indie studios, that is not the case. And so when people are overly harsh on this game, or like certain content creators know that want this game to fail, and are looking for any excuse for this game to fail and piss all over it, for those people are the people that you don't want around. Those are the people you don't want to be supporting. You want to be looking at these kinds of games and be like, okay, this game's got potential. It needs work. Let's be patient with it. Let's give them the time of day. And for those that haven't bought it, you know, there's no shame in just being patient. There's no harm in it. In fact, buying early access means that what you're doing when you buy early access games, what that really means is that you're willing to put a little bit of stock and faith into the company. You're willing to take a chance. That means that we're all taking a chance. All of my friends who bought this game, all 37 of us, and maybe we'll get bit. It happens. Planetary Annihilation was the bite for me. Starbound was a bite for me. It happens. Iron Harvest, another game that bit me. Those are some of the early access games that I bought into that did not get better, did not get improved, but instead got abandoned or didn't go in directions I wanted them to, or that they'd promised to, and ended up flopping or not doing very well. And that happens. But there are games like Factorio. There are games like Project Zomboid. There are games like Forever Winter or others where, or maybe not Forever Winter because it's not done yet, but those other ones that I mentioned, Factorio or Project Zomboid, which is still in development, by the way, but where it's like I feel good in my investment. I bought in, and I feel like I've gotten my money's worth out and then some, in terms of enjoyment and fun. And these are games I can constantly revisit and go back to. There is a reason to revisit these games. There's a reason to return to these games, and they are worth supporting. They are worth giving the benefit of the doubt. Too often have people become black-pilled, and it's not their fault. You know, AAA games burned you. Dead Space 3, you know, Titanfall getting the plug pulled on it, the new Battlefield game, the state of the Mass Effect and Dragon Age series, to look at EA, or the state of Assassin's Creed, you know. I don't blame people for being upset. They have every right to be, right? But you should be upset at the companies that are continually doing those things. Just because a new studio comes along and tries something new, don't apply the same grievances that you have towards Ubisoft or EA to some small little tiny studio that just is, trying to make a little passion project. And, if you enjoy it, great. If not, well, at least thanks for looking at our store page, so to speak. And be more positive in that regard. Give them the benefit of the doubt and just let them develop their game and be patient. You lose nothing from doing that. The only thing you do when you close yourself off that you do is you cuck yourself from a potentially good experience. And I don't see why you should do that unless you're a masochist. Because why not? Why not have a little bit of faith? What are you going to lose out if you just wishlist Forever Winter or, the new Factorio expansion? Do you lose anything? Do you lose anything from wishlisting this? Yeah, you do. About a few seconds of your time. And that's a minor investment considering that only it takes one good thing to invest in a few seconds to wishlist on and to just keep tabs on every few seconds. And then all of a sudden you get something like Factorio, and then you get hundreds of hours in returns. Hundreds and hundreds of hours. And in some cases, you get thousands from a really good gem. All it takes is a few seconds to invest just to give them the time of day. Just to click on the store page, just to look at it, just to watch the little trailer and see and judge or value if that's worth it or not. And if it's not, no harm done, right? You just close the page and you move on. There is no harm in not wanting something or be like, I think Forever Winter isn't for me. Or Factorio is just not my kind of game. No harm done. You looked at it, you gave it the time of day, and what did you lose? Nothing, except a few seconds, right? And that's the most important part. And that's why indie games are on the rise. That's why we have the golden age. That's why in the AAA sphere, you get the woke dark age, which is what we have now. A lot of these games, well, it's a mini dark age. And why why are indies?
I'm thinking like,
I know, but why are indies not suffering from the same problem? Well, because when an indie suffers from one of these problems, that dark age, it's just one indie. There's millions. I'm kidding, not millions. There are thousands, though. There are thousands of them. 7 of them, maybe even 100 of them have that problem. All right, there's like 900 other ones. You didn't lose anything. You know what they lost? They lost a customer. Did you lose anything from that? From looking? No, you didn't. You won. You came out a champion. And that is exactly why looking into the indie sphere and being patient with the indies is such a fucking Chad thing. You walk away with timeless games that are some of the best games that I've ever seen in my entire life, right? And what do you lose? Just a few seconds. What do you lose from buying a AAA game? $70. And you get 10 hours worth of enjoyment. And you played some game that's filled with, watered down, sanitized, corporate schlock, no soul, no passion, no nothing. PC as fuck, not offensive, not gonna take any risks. And you got what you paid for. You got what you deserved. Mediocrity. And that's why it's important to look into indies. That's why it's important to give them the time of day. Because you have nothing to lose. Look at that, Chatfish. You feel strong now? You feel powerful? Because you are powerful. It's why it's important to be a smart and powerful consumer fish. You need to know what to buy. You need to look into it. It doesn't hurt to look into it. A little bit of research, you lose nothing. You save money and time.
And if you want another example for games that were early access that actually did go well with the development and full release, Diplomacy Not an Option just released.
That's another one.
Fully.
I don't think that's my cup of tea.
It found a niche of the...
It's basically for people who like the wave survival games, right?
Yeah.
Like massive waves. And it is impressive how many dudes you see on screen. Like there are bajillions of dudes. Now, I've got serious questions about my personal autism, about like, because this is again comes to the thing where it's like, well, not everything is for everybody, right? For me, it's like, all right, what are they gonna do when they get to the wall? Poke it? That's not gonna they're not gonna break a wall doing that.
I do
That's pretty
remember in this
impressive.
game's case seeing things that, yeah, there could be monstrous things, or there could be, they have sappers in the army. Or their own siege equipment.
But basically, it's in the vein of they are billions.
Yes, but I think this does it a lot better. Also, it actually 1.0 has released its full campaign, and the previews for the campaign did seem pretty silly and actually fun.
As long as the voice acting is better than They Are Billions. Fuck.
No
Billions
idea
were
on the
bad.
voice acting for this.
The voice acting for They Are Billions is horrible.
There Are Billions completely botched the campaign, and the developers I think also got into the us versus the player mindset.
They also went hyper woke.
They did, from what I remember.
It happens from time to time, but that's what I mean. Some companies, yeah, they take the L, but this is why indies are good, and this is why being blackpilled on indies is a bad idea, because you're just losing. You're just being the only loser in the room. You don't lose anything from just looking at a game and be like, I don't like that one. Okay, awesome. Don't buy it. Move on. Look for the next one. There's so many. There are so many games. You deserve to look for more. Well, actually, no, you don't deserve to. You have to earn that right. Once you find them, though, you can fucking get them. And boy, are there many.
Yeah. Tarantine donates 20 Nox. Is it not talk about Tencent buying out Ubisoft?
There is talk of them buying out Ubisoft. It would be, for me, it wouldn't change anything, really, because like Ubisoft games are just still bad, and Tencent is not a company I look at with much positivity. The only thing I will say about Tencent that they occasionally do is Tencent, to give credit where credit is due, sometimes they don't interfere with development. And this means basically they just don't put anything in it. They just don't meddle in the affairs. They like to dip their fingers into many pies and get the profit from it, but they don't really meddle too much. It's when they meddle that I have a problem usually.
If they do end up buying it, or do get to, they're probably
They're gonna meddle.
heavily lay off the majority, because Ubisoft's just complete full of bloat for employees.
Well, yeah, it's not only is Ubisoft incredibly bloated with a bunch of people that they don't need, but there's also sitting on IPs that are completely stagnant. And like nothing's been done. Like the Tom Clancy fucking End War game, the World in Conflict game, the Ground and Control game, the fucking myriad of other games Ubisoft is sitting on. The Assassin's Creed series is completely, I think it's actually doing economically well. No, it was doing okay with the Vikings one, but I think it's doing not so okay right now. But
No, like after like the Viking one,
the
they're
Mirage one
going
was
downhill.
bad. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
they finally stepped in.
Ubisoft is one of the biggest slop developers on the market right now. Like,
Yep.
it can't really get much worse.
Yeah, their name doesn't. When I see
That's kind of
Ubisoft
my
name,
opinion of that as well.
yeah. See, their name used to have like a little bit of pride behind it, just like EA did for a while. The EA Golden Age, the second EA Golden Age after EA got their act together, was really good, and then they absolutely collapsed, and that was disastrous, absolutely disastrous. The Anno games are good, yes, but they're also not really made by Ubisoft, if that makes sense. Like they are worked on, but they are an independent team, and I have quite a few Ubisoft contacts when it comes to this. So, Anno is basically developed by. Oh, they don't show it here. They call it Ubisoft Mains. No, it's Blue Byte. They're developed by Blue Byte. Not, I don't know what that is.
Ubisoft acquire them or something?
Well, I mean, they always did. The Anno license is under Ubisoft, if I remember right. But Blue Byte is the developers behind Anno. That's weird. I don't get why it's called Ubisoft Mains. That's strange. Something might have changed there. But either way, Blue Byte is the developers behind Anno, and the Anno series, and they've generally done a pretty good job with Anno, and that's what they're like bread and butter. They're really good at Anno. They're really good at building designs. They're just very good at that. Ubisoft had them make another game, and that game was the New Settlers, and Blue Byte dropped the ball on it because Blue Byte has zero experience on games like that, and it was very clear that they were out of their element. So it's going to be good that they're going back to the things they know, because some studios they know how to develop certain games, and Anno 1800 was fucking awesome, and honestly, I think the next Anno game is probably going to be pretty good too. Unless something has changed in the studio side, the Anno 11.7 or whatever the fuck it's called looks to be promising.
Aren't they also, like Paradox games, becoming available with DLC, though?
They always have been. Like $373 worth of DLC. But they're solid games.
Ubisoft Blue Byte, since 2019, it now acts as a parent company for Ubisoft's 3 German studios, which became branded as Ubisoft Düsseldorf, Ubisoft Mainz, and Ubisoft Berlin.
Okay, so
the 3 studios comprise 695 employees as of August 2024.
Okay, so Blue Byte kind of got rolled into, or not rolled into, but they became the big cheese of the German divisions.
I suppose.
Because, yeah, Blue Byte is a German studio. They make fucking awesome city builders. Like, really good. And their art team, when it comes to their cities, they're so good. Like, the style of... I don't know if you've ever seen this game, Rob, but like it just looks good. The cities look good, and they feel good.
Yeah, the water looks really nice, too.
I really like Anno. Anno is an acquired taste for city builders because it's very gamey in terms of progression. It's very German in terms of design. Like, you've got to do certain things in certain production orders to get certain things to move up to the next resources. And so you can play the Anno 1800, and it's really just about optimizing routes, if that makes sense. And that's the more big thing. Like, there's a couple of routes to become big. Like, it's really about, like, okay, what does this island produce? And then you produce that, and you try to maximize the production of those items and then trade upwards, right? And it's basically about trade. It's got warfare. The warfare is serviceable. It's not the reason why you play these games. You play them for the city building, and that's the main factor.
Mm-hmm.
Skull and Bones was bad, yeah. I saw that.
Blue Byte been making Settlers since the 90s, the Stone Age.
So they were also responsible for Settlers as well. See, I don't have any experience with Settlers as a series. All I know is I just don't care for the one I played. Yeah, it's not received very well. Well, Dusseldorf is apparently responsible for this one. And I
haven't played Settlers since Settlers 2.
Dropped. It wasn't OBS, it was Restream, because Signal dropped. We're back.
We're back?
New stream or...
No, I mean, we're back. That's what I mean.
We are.
Because what happened is the signal went to 0, and then it went back up. So it was like a hiccup in the uploading.
Yep.
Which means it was on Restream's end, probably not OBS if I had to guess. If that occurs. Means that Restream hiccuped. Happens from time to time. Little hiccups. But yeah. Blue Byte's not quite an indie, but as far as games go, they're all kind of related, right? In terms of building and innovating and pushing and pulling. But the big thing I have to say...
More gold, Your Majesty!
Teratine donates 50 Norwegian kroner, says Blue Byte have 50-50 hit rate on their games. They also making the new Prince of Persia game. Okay, no. It's physically impossible for the studio to be producing, like, having the same director producing that at the same time. That would lead to an absolute disaster if that's actually, like, happening. What's probably the case in Teratine is that a portion or a B team is working on it. Not that it's actually being produced by, you know, the actual Anno team or Team Anno. Because that's okay. So let's use an example here, because we know about it because there were so many leaks about Mass Effect Andromeda that we more or less were able to corroborate a lot of information there. to what actually happened. So Mass Effect Andromeda was made by the B team of BioWare. Now, the B team's experience was in producing expansions and DLC content, because the A team would produce a game, and then immediately they were supposed to move on to the next game, right? In the case of Mass Effect Andromeda, after Mass Effect 3, right, the A team after Mass Effect 3 moved on to produce Anthem, while the B team was then assigned by EA to, finish up with the expansions for Mass Effect 3. And when they had finished with the expansions and the DLC and updates for Mass Effect 3, they were to move on and begin production of Mass Effect Andromeda. And the B team was not prepared for that, right? And so the B team absolutely fucking pancaked when it came to that game. Because the B team had only had experience in making expansion content and had no experience in making a fully fledged title. Not to mention, they were also mandated to use the Frostbite engine to make the game in. They were basically mandated to be like, oh, you're going to have procedural generation, you're going to have procedurally generated worlds, you're going to have space combat, and you're going to have like this other thing, and it's going to be like basically everything that Mass Effect 1 and 2 and 3 was, but 10 times the scale and scope. And you need to do that. And the B team sort of sat there and was like, I don't know how to do any of that. And that's when they got, I forget the director's name, basically to go on the project like a year before the game was supposed to launch and be like, all right, guys, you're all going to have crunch to death. And you're also going to, we're going to cut the space combat. We're going to cut the procedural worlds. We're going to use the procedural generator to make the maps. And then we're going to design and build off the maps. And then the story, we'll do the story last. And it really shows, because the story came into the part last. It was the last thing they basically tacked onto the game to basically fit all the pieces together. It was a disaster. And it's an interesting study to look into Mass Effect Andromeda, because it's what happens when you take a bunch of people who have no experience working on something and are like, hey, you have to make the next Mass Effect game. And that's what EA told the B team. And the B team just looks up at them and is like, I don't, okay. And it's a train wreck. I don't know how much you guys know about it, but I remember reading not only a couple of pages on it, but also watching some documentaries basically going through the entire development history behind Andromeda. It's actually pretty interesting. But it's mostly an interesting study in basically what happens when you have a big executive making decisions that sound good on paper, but not picking people who have any experience in doing these things. Because the B team, I genuinely feel sympathy for, because they did not deserve that. They were not skilled in making final products, only skilled in producing DLC and expansion-based content based on a foundation that already existed. They had no experience building something from the ground up.
That is a managerial issue as well, right? Like, it's not entirely their fault that they got put on something that they weren't really ready for.
Yep,
or even hired for.
EA execs had been doing that to many studios, which is why I think the B team gets a lot of blame and hate, but I think a lot of the blame and hate should have been poised at EA's managerial team and CEOs, because it was their fucking laziness and inability to literally let these teams work on things that they were skilled on, or mandating them to use the Frostbite engine when the Frostbite engine was made by DICE, and DICE specifically made the engine just to make Battlefield games. That was their only objective with the Frostbite engine. And then they mandated Victory Games. That's how Victory Games died as a studio. They mandated them to produce Command & Conquer Generals 2 on the Frostbite engine. They also mandated them to make it an MMO and to make it a free-to-play to get more money. And so I don't blame the developers of Generals 2 for what happened in Generals 2. I blame EA for what happened to Generals 2 and the management of EA. Because Victory Games didn't deserve that. Just like Command & Conquer Twilight, right? I don't blame the studio. The studio was mandated to produce a MOBA-based strategy game, because that's what happened to Westwood too. Victory Games are the survivors of Westwood, basically, if I'm right. If I'm remembering the studio name, I think I might be mixing up the name. I think it's Victory Games. I can't remember what I'm saying. But either way, they're the guys that make Command & Conquer, right? Because Westwood was mandated to produce Renegade because arena shooters were popular in the 2000s. So
Hey, let's take this RTS franchise and make a shooter out of it.
And Westwood just
Okay.
looks up at him and is like, but like, but what, but how?
That's not what we do.
He makes strategy games. He makes strategy. And Twilight, the reason why Twilight was bad was because Twilight was supposed to just be for the Eastern market, and it was supposed to be based in the Command & Conquer universe as a spin-off. But EA was like, okay, we can maximize sales in the West, because if we slap a 4 on this game, and if we say that it's the conclusion of the story for the Tiberium Wars, everyone will want to buy it. And it's true. It's what tricked me as a little kid. I was like, Command & Conquer 4, and it's the conclusion to the story. Like, it's going to be the end for the Tiberium universe. Like, the wars are going to come to an end, and it's going to be the conclusion for all the events that happen in the games. Oh my god, that sounds so cool. I want to see what happens, you know? And then I played it. I'm like, oh my god, that was like the worst ending I could possibly think of. Actually, no, I couldn't even imagine that ending as a kid. Like, it was beyond my imagination that it was E.T. Phone Home, the video game. Kane's like, I just want to go home. I'm going to go home now, and I actually don't want to hurt anyone. Bye. And it's like, dude, you literally, like, genocided people. Like,
You're a monster. You can get away with this.
What do you mean you want to go home? What do you mean you want to go home?
More
13
gold,
days,
your
20
majesty.
Ukrainians. EA also killed Bullfrog. That made Dungeon Keeper.
Yes, Bullfrog is another amazing studio. They made Dungeon Keeper, they made Magic Carpet, they made a lot of weird sort of like games that very much played on interesting concepts. They were very much out of the box thinkers at Bullfrog Studios. Some of their teams survived and went on to Lionhead Studios, if I remember right, but Lionhead Studios was under the thumb of Peter Molyneux, and we all know how Peter Molyneux treated Lionhead Studios as he drove them off a ledge.
Bullfrog also did Populous at the beginning.
Yeah, Bullfrog did Populous at the beginning, which is what inspired Black and White. That's true. But yeah, Bullfrog was a pretty good studio. Yeah, the problem with EA is EA will have so many golden gooses. They had Visceral, you know, they had Westwood, they had, which became Victory Games, if I remember right. They had so many amazing studios under their thumb. They had the world in their hands, unironically. They were the titans. When you saw an EA logo on one of those PS2 boxes, or PC boxes back in the day, you knew that game was gonna be fucking awesome. EA Games, challenge everything. Like, fucking, oh my god. Like, it's just like, oh my god, EA's logo, and I was like, yeah, Red Alert 2, baby, or like, oh my god, I can't wait to tear into this one, you know, and it's just like, whatever they touch turned to gold. The Lord of the Rings movie games, fucking awesome. The Harry Potter games, for no reason, fucking awesome. Why are these games good? Why are these... Everything they touched turned to gold. And then the dark times came. And the mismanagement started to happen. And honestly, we should do a whole stream on the Bunchcast about EA, actually, because we're kind of segued far off topic, and I think we'll reel it back in.
You have fond memories of EA. I've always known them as the company that makes the shitty football games.
They were the game company, or they were the publisher that published gold for a while. Like, everything they published was amazing, and it was like, wow, This is awesome. And then I remember when EA was a respectable name.
It was a time.
Now, bear in mind, that was the second golden age. Because I know a little bit more about EA due to my uncle, because he worked with them. And so, way back when, they made a bunch of sports games, and then they had a bit of a dark age. And then, that dark age, they emerged, and that was the era I grew up with their games. That was the second EA golden age for their studio. Or not studio, their publishing. And all their games under their umbrella. And it was just like good, and good. Lots of innovation, a lot of thinking games. Games that were outside the box. SimCity, fucking Sims. So many things that were just cool and refreshing. Like everything that you could think of. And then all of a sudden, like 2010 hits. And EA just fucking hits a wall. Like their games are kind of getting a little bit formulaic, but they're still fun. Like, the games are starting to plateau, and that might be because of the graphics race and the graphics wars, basically. And the console wars playing a part in that, too. And they plateau. They literally fucking plateau. And when they smack into the wall, that's the second dark age. And we've sort of been in that perpetual period this entire time. Forever. It's just been perpetually garbage. And they've just pumped out shit after shit after shit. And I think they did one thing that I thought was okay. And the only thing that's happening inside their goddamn company that's ever good is in spite of it. This project, the remastered project that was in collaboration with Petroglyph, the last remnants of Westwood that are fucking dinosaurs now, in Lemon Sky Studios, was basically put together pretty much and got its ball moving because a community manager in EA who grew up being passionate about these games literally fought to drive to make this happen. If I remember right, reading the story. And it was only because of him that this got off the ground. Because there was no will inside of management or whatsoever to try to revitalize the CNC series outside of it being a mobile game. And so that's why it's just stuck.
Despite the fact that there's so many people pining for these games to come back.
Yep. And Jeff Sneezy's like, literally, my dad works at Nintendo. Yeah, pretty much. Except with my uncle. And he's crazy now, so sad. And so all my gaming news and information and insider information is super out of date and old. It's pretty much ends at like 2000, I think the 2011 and 12 period. Anything after that, my insider knowledge is just old. So it's a decade behind. I can tell you about a lot of things about the 2000s, but when it comes to modern times, if it's not about like Ubisoft or maybe some Blizzard stuff, and specifically in relation to some of the contacts I have there, it's just guesses at my point. Oh, what was that, Squealy? Squealy Bealy?
It's really unfortunate that you always have these like really good stories about your uncle, and there's like, oh, he's also crazy.
Yeah, he is crazy. It's unfortunate, but like either way, like, oh my god, he was the rock star to me as a kid. Like he's the entire reason why I'm obsessed with video games. Because it was super chill, it was super nice. And then he just had to just turn into an asshole. Oh, sad. But that's what Polly Squeaks do to you. That's why I hate politics so fucking much. Oh my god. But either way, ignoring that. Man. Like, there's so much about gaming that makes it so cool. Not just the fucking video games itself. Like, everything about it's fascinating. The studios behind it, the publishers, the what's happening industry-wise, the company basically trying to vie for control of certain things or what they're trying to push. That was super interesting to look at in the earlier years. It's not super interesting anymore, and I think that boils down to the fact that it's just not really interesting anymore. Like, Ubisoft just makes crap. Like, what is there to say beyond that? Like, okay, they made another Assassin's Creed game, it's woke. Who cares? People will make videos about it. People will click on those videos, but they haven't made good games, and I don't even know. I don't even know. Like, what has EA made? Like, the Dead Space remake was good, but it was only good because there was the director himself, the guy who had worked on For Honor, so happened to become very focused on like, he was super into Dead Space, and he was like very adamant about trying to keep it as, good and as cool as possible. And so he was focusing on that. And even then, even though he did his best there and he did a good job, still little bits of changes slipped in that other people had pushed him to do that were just kind of unnecessary. There's a new Might and Magic game? There is. We can pull it up in a sec. Your uncle became Alex Jones? No, opposite. The direct opposite. What is the opposite to Alex Jones? Anyone know?
Annie Sarkeesian. Oh.
Okay, maybe that's too harsh. But maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know. Does your uncle sleep around a lot?
If I had to suspect, probably.
Oh, maybe the comparison's apt.
Yeah, remember, like a lot of these industries are very incestuous.
Yep. All right, what was the name? Might and Magic. Yes, there's a new Might and Magic game, and it doesn't look actually half bad. I know the only reason why I'm interested in this is because a lot of people. Now it's being developed by Unfrozen. What do we know about Unfrozen as a studio?
Are they Polish? If they're Polish, they'll probably like it. They probably like Might and Magic.
Polish people are super into this.
Every time I meet a
Polish
Polish person, they're like, "I love Might and Magic." If it's ever brought up, I want to talk about Might and Magic.
Maybe, Jeff. But imagine that, but insane. Like, actually insane. Like, actually, like, insane. It needs to be in an asylum. That's my uncle. Make myself...
You caused that, Gibbs. You made him like this.
Maybe. That's what I get for saying that maybe we shouldn't judge people too harshly based on what they vote for. That's all I said. Perhaps we should, not let our, political views blind us. And that's what fucking got me. All right, so either way, my anger and annoyment on that aside, I think we're at a good point to wrap it up. Now, actually, hold on a second. What can we do? What can we judge based on this right here about the development team? She's got really messy hair.
It's over.
It's over?
Yeah.
Do you think her hair's
Woman.
colored or
So-
is that gray?
It's over.
It's over.
It's over.
So, are there any games that you guys are actually looking forward to right now?
Monster Hunter Wilds.
I'm actually really interested in Diplomacy. It's not an option that just came out, but that's
I know,
not
you keep
an
bringing
upcoming.
it up.
Yeah, well, it's a good example.
I know.
I'm really happy that that succeeded.
Mhm.
My issue is I haven't really had a chance to look at any upcoming release schedules, so my taste would be more reactive rather than proactive right now.
Yeah, this is just working, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Dwarf. I'm looking forward to the new Factorio expansion, and I'm also looking forward to Monster Hunter Wilds. Those are the big three for me right now. Dwarf is we
Yeah,
haven't
Wilds
shown
looks
this,
nice.
but this is a new indie RTS, and it's honestly the kind of RTSs I like. Just sort of fun. What? Go ahead.
I don't think this is probably not an updated video, is it?
No, it isn't. They have a new
'Cause it
rendering
looks
and
a
lighting
lot
system.
better now.
All the units
Yeah.
look very derpy.
But yeah, no, it looks really nice now with the new stuff.
This is before the new renderer thing they have now. They have a dynamic day and night cycle thing now.
That portrait at the bottom looked very much original StarCraft cutscene.
Now, Chatfish, you will like the games I like because I command you to. Like, yes, my lord. As they all kneel.
Yeah.
Wait, they don't have knees.
I want to note, by the way, no one's donated to Kip's Choice, by the way.
I'm trying. I'm trying. I was
Crazy
hoping.
Temple says, I need Broken Arrow to be good. Been delayed to next year.
Broken Arrow? Oh, yeah. That's another. I don't think that's an indie.
Wise 10 comes out this month. It's Killjoy.
East.
It's a Slytherin published game. Oh, Slytherin.
How do
The
you feel about
architects of
that,
mediocrity.
Pitsky?
Yeast? Oh, I
Yeast.
think it's not very good.
What game?
I know, but
That's what I think.
like Yeast 10. Are you anticipating that?
What do you call it? Yeast?
Mm,
It's
It's
YS.
YES?
it's called East.
No, just YS.
I've played not most of them, but like half of them,
Oh, God.
and I still think East 1 and 2 are the best East games.
English language is not supported.
And those games are ancient. I don't really like what they turn into later. They become like weird, slow story games with weird party mechanics. And
I
shit.
can't even read that.
Yeah, English isn't supported.
Nippon.
Yeah.
It's only for the truest of weebs.
Good. They've gate-kept Kib. Oh, no. It's Anime Kib, your nemesis. Oh, come on. I just don't like tropes. It's nothing to do with the art style. It has everything to do with tropes. I've never said I have a problem with anime. I have a problem with tropes. It just so happens that
This is
most
when we do a
anime are
smash
just
cut and we
tropes.
find spots where he has just blatantly said anime trash, anime bad.
Okay, I
anime
do say that as
dumpster.
memes.
Well, he's right. Anime is bad and trash.
Sim for Kib, please.
Boog
Thanks.
confirmed it, and Boog's the biggest anime nerd we know.
He
Yeah,
is.
you remember all the anime you liked from the
For
90s that was
gold,
kind
your
of interesting?
majesty.
They were failed projects.
Wait, they're making a Wallace and Gromit Telltale game? Hold on.
Also, that was a dono for $20. 20 knocks, not donos.
Also, Gromit is they have a Telltale game. They're not. It's not a Telltale franchise. If that's what you're thinking.
Why is the top result of mini golf DLC?
Fuck it, I'll just find him this way. Telltale. They make bad games that I enjoy.
We still have to go through Wolf Among Us. Have a think about that.
I don't see any fucking Wallace and
Wolf
Gromit
Among
games.
Us.
One title
Yeah.
has been excluded based on your preferences.
Oh god. Good Night Universe. Oh fuck. I don't like that art style. I think I'll kill myself later. You're like, you can't just kill yourself like that.
Wallace and Gromit's Grand Adventures.
Is it just announced or something?
No, it's an old one, isn't it? Telltale made a Wallace and Gromit game like a long time ago. They also made a Bone game, which I don't know how I feel about that.
No, it didn't exist.
Google it.
Ugh.
This is when he finds out that he's
Mm.
been spelling Wallace and Gromit wrong the entire time.
Happens.
His name was Wallace. Good on it.
Okay, Kibbs, I'm sorry. This is hurting my autism. You're going to Google and then typing Google to search in Google.
I did that.
Just type it into the top bar.
Why? It came out 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They got bees.
Oh, I thought it was new. I don't want old
No,
things.
this
I don't
I
like
told you it's old.
it. See, I can't like it because Goodbye Volcano High is apparently similar to it.
To be fair,
Because
that's
Football Volcano
always a
High
lie.
is a point-and-click visual novel shit.
It's literally just people. It's like wanting to be a part of like all the new trendy tags, just adding it.
Who doesn't love Wallace and Gromit? Look at the fucking teeth. Oh my god. His face and mouth has always made me upset every day. Every day.
Also,
have you ever
on the
looked at
left.
like have you ever looked at Wallace's skull in the like meat in the like drawings of it?
Also,
Funny.
before you move on, that guy in the background looks like Nigel Thorpewood.
Kinda,
does.
yeah. The British.
You can tell by the teeth.
Wait, is it? No, it's not in licensing hell because it's still there. Mostly just walking sim. Unclear instruction on what to do in the game.
Yeah, it's a point and click.
Cheese!
I
Cheese!
have a strange feeling this is the day our fortunes are going to change.
Oh no.
It's always funny people
It's
say,
modern.
like,
Gonna get stabbed.
oh.
I have a feeling our fortunes are about to change. Gets knifed. It was not I, chat. They did it themselves. Extreme Mango Lad, you're incredibly late and you'll be destroyed. He's like, okay, I was being destroyed.
Then scream me to hell.
What happened to my
I
sneeze?
mean, Kibbs, do you really want to be calling people late? Are you sure you want to be calling people late?
When going against tropes is the current day trope, it's not about turning tropes on its head. It's or being like going against tropes is a trope. The big problem I have with tropes is that tropes are not a good thing in terms of writing. A trope is how I view it is a crutch for a person who's uncreative, right? It's not to be like, oh my god, you're gonna come up with something completely fresh. It's that your execution is the important part. If you execute something well, no one will know that you had tropes in your story. Because they'll be too busy fucking gooning all over your fucking amazing story. Like, just all over. But the reality is that what I mean by bad tropes is it's like, I need you to help save or stop the evil empire. And then the guy's like, no, I don't wanna. And then his family dies and like, okay, I'll stop the evil empire.
My favorite one is just when they just do anime character archetypes, where like there's always 5 different anime girls that fill out this category.
Yep. Because it's for everyone's preference. It's like, here's this one for that.
There's your
preference.
waifu and your waifu and your waifu, so we can sell merchandise based off the story.
It turns out we were the bad guys all along.
That only happens in Western media, because we have a lot of cobras in Civilization.
No, peasant thoughts. You know why it doesn't sound like a good game when I say that? Because many of you have often said the complete opposite. You know what you say whenever we play a game like that? You know what you actually say? I know you're trying to be pedantic, little chatfish. I know what you guys say, because I listen to you, little fish. You say this. I really wish we could play as the Empire. That's you. That's all of you. All of you say that all the time. So don't even give me this. Oh, no, no, that's not you. You say the complete opposite. No, I don't.
Not
Okay,
chat's fault.
little
The
bit.
Empire just looks so much cooler.
You got cool toys.
Need I remind you of the rebels'
More
really dumb
gold,
hats
Your
that they always
Majesty.
have to wear.
Oh, the dumb hats. Age of
Except for like
Darkness is
their
also a
pilots,
game.
they wear hats at least.
Age of
I
Darkness
played
needs
that.
more time in the oven.
Is this?
I tried it recently,
Oh, I tried that
and
like a couple years ago, and it wasn't very good.
they have a campaign now, and it's, I'll be kind and say clunky.
Don't be kind. It's another one of those series that hired Geralt of Rivia to voice act it.
Geralt's voice actor.
And the problem with Geralt's voice actor is he's really good at playing the character Geralt, but he's actually not good
So he
at
gets
voice acting anything
he gets
else.
typecasted.
Oh, yep, he does. He's typecasted in so many games. Like, there's another indie I know that actually hired him to work on their game, and the problem with getting the guy to do the voice act is he actually only has one voice, and he's only Geralt of Rivia all the time. And so whenever you hire somebody like that, like all you do is like, oh, it's just Geralt of Rivia, and so your game is erased, and you just become Witcher 3.
You're playing Geralt again. That's
I
all
don't
you
know.
are.
I don't know if it's this game, but I know Spellforce did that, didn't they? They had Geralt in it, didn't they? They did. Don't lie to me, Binsky. You played Spellforce. Binsky! Binsky!
Yeah, he was in 3 or whatever.
That game sucked.
Yeah, it's terrible. Well, Spellforce is a really bad series.
I
to be honest.
remember watching you play that game, and I remember wishing that you would just play anything else. I remember that. But I also remember, like, oh my god. When I had an anti-piracy job, I used to have Robin stream all the time because he'd always stream, right? I remember watching him stream all the time. And sometimes I'd zone out because I'd be focusing on work. And every time I'd like get a moment to like look over and see what Bensky was doing, like in Spellforce 3, I was like, whatever it was just some form of the most boring, monotonous shit I'd ever seen in my life. Or like listening to the story was so fucking tropey and boring. Oh my god. Tropey boring stories. Spellforce 3. Soulless. Like that's the problem. I don't want generic tropey stories. And it's not don't get this anti-hipster bias, because not hipster chatfishies. Because I can see you doing that, peasant bro. I can see you doing it. You're locking up. You're becoming a locked fish. Locked fish or trap fish. You gotta shake your little fins and get free. We need good things. We need good things executed well. Not same old boring fucking slop over and over again. Don't lock up, fishies. Keep those fins wiggling. Like, oh, we're so exercisey. It was pretty bad.
exercise fish bike.
Age of Darkness, for legal reasons, the preceding comment is satire.
You didn't read that right.
Oh, dankness. I was like, Grumpy Rat might be having brain damage. See, chatfish need help. One of our chatfishes don't like this game. I have played TAB, they are billions, and this is just boring. That was mean and hurtful. You're gonna make the developers go. But I do think we've gotten through pretty much everything, and it might be time to start doing our Mass Effect stream. Unless anyone has any further comments
No,
about
I am none.
indies or games in general today. Anything else anyone else looking forward to? Did we get through everybody? Robin, what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to Monster Hunter Wilds, but also Path of Exile 2.
Why are you looking forward to Monster Hunter Wilds?
Well, hopefully it's another game in the mainline series. I mean, Monster Hunter World was nice. But Monster Hunter Rise was not nice. So it would be nice to have another fun game.
What if it's bad?
I haven't really. I mean, they haven't really shown. They have shown quite a bit, but it's really hard to tell before you play it. But
Did you see the Gamescom demo they put out? Like the footage
I
for
did
that?
see there was like a 30-minute video that was up on Twitter that I saw. I didn't watch the whole thing, but
Just realized that our music was gone. Because
Yes,
I
I told you to loop it and you didn't do that.
He has a
Gold,
hard
Your
time
Majesty.
We have these
Kid
commissions
listening? That's
specifically for our channel. They're unique tracks, even. You will live stream the Gothic series 1 through 3 for the upcoming Gothic remake. I like how he says with a question mark as he says you will. I can see Jeff's got his like fucking exhortation thing going on. He's like,
God, Gothic
Isn't
fucking
Gothic
sucks.
one of those? Honestly, isn't Gothic like one of those hyper janky
I have no
fucking
opinion.
games?
I've never played Gothic.
Gothic is another Polish game that people.
I thought it was German.
Poles, it is German, but the Polish people fucking adore it for some goddamn reason.
The Polish fish are
Yeah, because the Polish are just Germans.
Oh my god,
but-
Poland belongs to Germany. Is that what you just said? Yeah,
Yes.
based.
So,
Destroy Poland.
Unironic, like Gothic is a extremely janky series with good atmosphere, and that's all it has. Because the rest of the fucking game just fucking suck. Like 1, 2, and 3, they all fucking suck, and they have a spin-off series that are just also Gothic, but they have different art theme. Like Elix is just a sci-fi Gothic. That's all it is.
Tarantine has another dono.
It is.
Read it.
Waiting for
I thought Kid was going to. He then 50 North Koreans. Nebuchadnezzar is also an indie game in the style of an old Pharaoh game.
Jesus Christ.
What?
Huh.
What?
I think you was reacting just to the name.
Oh, is it the fact that-
Nebuchadnezzar?
Yeah, Nebuchadnezzar. Yeah, Squilly pronouncing that made my brain cells die. I love that.
He's like fucking gibberish name.
You mean Nebuchadnezzar?
Everything should be in English, by the way. I'm a firm supremacist on that regard.
This definitely
Clearly
reminds me of
says
an old city builder. Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Mesopotamian inspired, right? Nebuchadnezzar's Mesopotamian.
No, it's Pharaoh.
No, it's Nebuchadnezzar.
He says like Pharaoh though.
Nebuchadnezzar, yes, but
Even though
Nebuchadnezzar.
Even though the Pharaoh game I'm thinking of is
I have a
based
brain
off the
damage.
Rome game, but you know,
Yeah,
forget about that.
by Pharaoh, do you mean Rome?
The Rome games that were like Pharaoh were just better, by the way. Looks pretty cute though.
Yeah, like you can build those massive little terraces, palace things.
That's
that
not
they
terrace.
build.
This is ziggurat.
They got terraces.
Ziggurat.
There are terraces on ziggurats.
Which
How's it
means
make
it's
you
a
feel?
big ziggurat.
You suck for disliking Gothic. I never said I disliked Gothic. I just said it was shit. I think Gothic is a adorable series. I just think it's really bad.
Gothic.
I think it's on GOG. so
Gothic
find it
Oh, there's a
later.
remake.
THQ Nordic. Oh boy.
I love THQ Nordic. They make all the bad games I like Darksiders. Darksiders 1 and 2.
No, THQ Nordic didn't make those. They just
Oh, no, there's just normal THQ. Never mind then.
yeah, THQ's dead. THQ Nordic just took the name and then added Nordic at the end.
They were
Oh,
called
sad.
Caesar, not Rome. Yeah, that Rome game.
I don't have
Whatever.
any opinion on Gothic. I don't even know much about it other than it's like a fantasy game. It's made by
It's
Germans.
it's a really cool idea and premise, and they have a lot of cool ideas, but they flounder on all of them because they can't make a game to save them.
Well, maybe the remake will actually, do something with those ideas.
I don't know about that.
Well, you never know. You never know.
It just
Won't be
makes it
Gothic
worse.
if it's not janky and garbage.
It just makes everything worse.
It's like I like it more. It's better.
Good night, Tarantine.
Have a good one.
So, Gibbs.
I'm just looking. You will
Yeah, but you-
play it, says Jeff Sneedstein. Well, Jeff, I tell you what, you become my biggest pogfish, and I might do it. The entire trilogy and suffer through. You just okay.
That would require a lot of money.
I might try it, and if chat want to fund it, then they can. Because I will try new games.
You do need to get the first 2 games functional on modern PCs, by the way.
Well, I'm gonna
They-
play the
they are
remake.
not-
Fuck that.
They are that old that you need to patch them.
No. I'm done with Eurojank. I'm gonna let them get old.
Keeps us like we're not doing Gothic 1 and 2.
They're looking at it right now. This is Gothic 1. See? Look.
That's not Gothic 1.
Yeah, it is.
It's way too nice looking to be Gothic
It
1.
says it's Gothic 1.
What is it? What does it say, Gibbs?
It says Gothic 1 Remake, and that's
Pop
the
out of it.
Oh, remake.
Yeah,
Yeah, just as good.
and that's the one I'm gonna play.
It's just like when Kib says, "Yeah, we'll play System Shock 2, the remake."
The
Like, you
remake.
coward.
Yeah, we'll play the remake. It's actually not a remake.
Yeah, but you can play System Shock 2 right now.
Yeah,
You
but-
never finished it
Yeah, but I
because
don't.
you're too much of a baby.
Don't think I'm gonna. Not gonna happen. Not gonna
Too
happen.
much of a baby.
Nuh-uh, not gonna. Nuh-uh.
BBQ.
Eurojank is life. Jeff Sneedstein, you are my little slave fish. He's like, no.
You're lucky your name is funny.
You're lucky your name is funny. If it wasn't, we'd be mean to you. He's like, oh no. Oh, no.
Speaking of Eurojank,
Good night, Teratine.
so Kibs, Mass Effect.
I just wanted to. We now went through what everyone's looking forward to. Because Binsky asked the question, but nobody asked Binsky. And he thought he could slip out without us talking to him about it. You little shit. You little sneaky fuck.
Look at that magic
Yeah.
gameplay, Gibbs.
It honestly
Look how
doesn't look.
clunky it
It
is.
doesn't look that bad.
Ooh,
I bet you controls
that.
absolutely terrible.
The controls schematics look bad though. Yes, like it looks like.
I
It's a
was
little
watching an
sluggish.
animation of him slashing the fucking raptors, like,
They're not janky enough for you.
No, it was really slow. That's the problem.
It's trying to be gothic.
Aloft. It
Oh,
better not-
I think I know this one.
I need to use yours.
Yeah. You can fly around between islands.
So it's
Fun
basically
gum.
it's
No.
unironically, you know what that looks like to me? That just looks like survival Skyward Sword.
Yeah. Oh, Funcom. They're publishing Dune Awakening.
You can play the demo. Well, maybe I will. But we have to play back through Mass Effect 3 again today, chat. And now you can donate for the tally war.
I thought you said you were going to do that off stream. Did you lie to me?
A little bit, yeah. So it turns out that no matter how much time I had, I only had time to end stream and go to bed. Go to bed. And I've been doing that consistently for the last, I don't know how many days now. But yeah. Also, just real quickly, because we haven't talked about Path of Exile 2. Path of Exile 2, before we even think about wrapping up, is the final thing, is this game here. And it looks really good. I'm not even kidding. Binsky showed this to me. And it looks like, basically, kind of what I wanted Diablo 4 to be, but Diablo 4 wasn't. Yeah.
Is there a way to play it now? Because I remember hearing something about public test.
There might be a
Well,
test.
the beta starts November 15.
Nightingale isn't kind of interesting. Nightingale could be interesting. I've seen that one a bit too.
Let me grab that little helmet. Seems like the budget for this one is much bigger.
Well, yeah.
Like pretty massive, honestly.
Do you have any idea how much money they make at grinding gear games? Like I know people on Twitter who, whenever they come back to play the latest league, which is every 3 months, they buy like $100 supporter pack just to get like cosmetics and shit.
That's pretty impressive.
And there are so many people who do that. And plus they are now published by Tencent, so they have even more money now.
Just refresh myself on it. Nightingale's what I thought Amazon's New World was going to be like.
Turns out there's a lot more games Chatfish were holding on to.
Nightingale's already out, but it's
It's
early access.
not received well.
It had a very jank and unplayable launch, I believe, on the early access end.
It reminds me of New World. And
Yeah,
I hate
no,
New World.
yeah, like I said, it's what New World kind of looks like when New World was kind
New
of
World
promising
was
itself
so
to
bad that, like, if I see a game that looks like it, I immediately dislike it.
be. Yeah.
I don't know, Robin, did you play New World?
A little bit.
What was your opinion of it?
My opinion is pretty biased because I have played way too many MMOs. I ran around and I did some quests, and I was like, I can't fucking do quests anymore, and then I turned it off
Oh my god.
because I just can't do that anymore. It's just bores me to tears.
I regret waiting like 8 hours in queue to get into the servers on launch.
Oh my god.
I remember when you dragged me into New World. It's like, wow, this wasn't really interesting at all.
New World really sucked. We should have just played World of Warcraft. We would have had more fun. We would
New
have had
World was-
more fun.
Oh, the early days of PvP and faction stuff was such a shit show in New World.
I mean, still
Oh
is.
no! Basically, the first big faction to consolidate everything just stayed on top. Is how that
Mhm.
worked.
Well, also, we found early on PvP. Oh, we're starting to lose the battle. Half the enemy, half of them just switched to Ice Gauntlet, and that would crash the server. So
Yep.
then the fight would end, and it would just no one would win.
But whoever's ever like there first got to keep.
Yes,
their
whoever was the defender wins, basically. Yeah.
Nightingale might be interesting. It's not an MMO, is it?
No,
Just looking at it, it gives me more Valheim vibes.
Yes, that's more
Yes, but
interesting. Because
it actually
when it comes
gave
to
us the
MMOs,
impression of a new world.
there are very few MMOs that interest me anymore because most MMOs are what Robin talked about. Just run around, do quests, and to be brutally honest, most of them, if they don't have a good story like SWTOR, I don't want to touch. I don't.
Swarto was great.
Or Final Fantasy XIV was also fun too. Like, it has a story, and the story is interesting. The MMO part is the least interesting part of the game. That ragdoll.
It just spawned a fish on him.
That UI could use some work. But either way, I mean,
Also,
it's-
Gibbs, you know you can turn off the automatic broadcast in your settings, right?
I can. I always leave it on so I can judge if I see somebody funny looking. So far, he's just a normal looking dude. We'll tolerate his existence for now. Just what? So cruel. All right,
Grumpy's like, not an MMO. Good.
Mars Tactics is one game Chatfish wanted to look at. I don't know. I looked at this before and it wasn't very interesting.
Wind farms.
Okay, there's actually
Sorry.
gameplay now. It looks like a sort of tactics-y style XCOM style game. As labor stands up against capital, you must pick a side. How will
Capital.
you win the wars? Yeah, capital.
Yeah.
Done.
Wait, was that Hooded Horse publisher?
Here's the thing. My quick little autism thing for colonizing Mars. Mars, for a lot of its early development, would be entirely reliant on supplies from Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
any
quite
labor
simple.
movement there is just doomed to fail by virtue of the fact they wouldn't be able to support themselves.
Oh my god, it's like Red Faction, the video game. But tactics. So we can play as Altor and be like, kill the miners, kill the miners. I do appreciate that there's voxel damage, though. That's nice.
I hope the Menace game is good.
This actually doesn't look that bad.
This
For a
looks
Texas game.
interesting. I'll wishlist this one.
Looks better than XCOM. Not that that's hard.
Well, that's become a low bar.
The whole voxel thing I appreciate. Novel.
So Frederick, I hear people say Venus is easier to terraform than Mars. I don't know about that. That sounds like some copium. Some
Maybe.
real hard copium.
But either way, Chatfishies, it is time to wrap up. this stream. But unfortunately, one last request came in. So Bino made something for everybody as a gift. And you can go and download that gift now. Now, if it's a virus or whatever, I don't know, man. It's Bino.
Gibbs, you download it first.
I
and
covered
then
my
tell me.
screen because you can never trust Bino's Bazaar.
I played it. It's on Edge. It's what you can just play through the browser.
Okay. So Chatfish.
You're gonna want to turn it down
I'm not
before
gonna
you
play it.
launch it.
I'm not
Okay.
gonna play it on stream. Chat has to pay for that. So Chatfish, if you go to the Beano's Bazaar, Fish Quest 2 is now available, and it was made by Beano. It is a fan game that Beano has made, in Beano's spare time with Beano's art and Beano's programming. If you would like to try Beano's game and let Beano know you appreciate him, you can go to Beano's Bazaar and play Fish Quest 2. And yeah, it looks special, and I was told that you want to turn your audio down or you won't have eardrums. So you've been warned, just like I have been. So now you know. What was the Mars game called? Oh, I can pull it up. I mean, you can always just rewind the stream, you big baby. Yeah, baby. Say, well, maybe we want to be a little big baby about it. It was called Mars Tactics. It's not out yet. Looks neat. Reminds me of like somebody wanted to make a Red Faction game. But yeah, there's Fish Quest 2. So try it. Let Beano know. Pat Beano. React with emojis, even if you don't play it, so he knows that we're appreciating him. You know? Big thinky. But yes, Chatfish, we will now see you in the Mass Effect stream. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for your generous donations. And for those of you that don't follow us over there, have a great night. Goodbye, Chatfish, and see you.